This episode of the Grand Rising Show was brought to you by Autochthonous Assembly, where the real work gets done. Autochthonous Assembly is a gathering of the minds that do the work. Now, for many of our first-time subscribers and first-time visitors, you may be wondering who Autochthonous Assembly are. You can find this information about our mission statement and our core values on the website at autochthonousassembly.com/about. We are a nonprofit organization dedicated to raising up Indigenous American voices by using genealogy, also known as family history, or your family tree, which is the study of families and the tracing of their lineages and history. Genealogists use oral interviews, historical records, genetic analysis, and other records to obtain information about a family and to demonstrate kinship and pedigrees of its members. Our core values are the foundation of our company, which is essential to our success and serve as a lens through which we evaluate every business decision. Those core values are, but are not limited to, integrity, which is knowing and doing what is right; respect, which is treating others the way you want to be treated; responsibility, which is embracing opportunities to contribute; and servant leadership, which is serving the common good. Now, at Autochthonous Assembly, we have a couple of goals here. And our first goal and foremost of the reason why we do everything that we do is to ensure that we help you do your genealogy and connect back to your tribe and find out where you are from. Everything that we do from the standpoint of the Grand Rising Show and all the information that's posted on the website is dedicated to that one specific purpose: helping you find your genealogy, find your relatives, find your family so that you will know exactly who you are. And if you choose to, tie back into your tribe, whether that tribe is a Native American tribe, an American Indian tribe, whether it's allowing you to determine which house in Africa that you belong to, or what clan of Scandinavia or Europe or France that you belong to. Either way, our goal is to do just that: help you find out who you are so you know exactly where to start. We are not here to tell you who you are, and we're not here to tell you who you are not. We're just here to help you discover your beginnings. Another one of our missions is to help you become financially independent so that you can help your generations for the next 7 generations and be able to put a stable foundation for you and your relatives. And if you should choose to use this information that we provide free of charge to help not only yourself, but your community and your tribe, then we will do everything in our power to make sure that gets done as well. And remember, our goal here is to make sure that we help you get exposed to this information to put you in the best situation possible. So now what I'm going to do now is return it back over to the panel to see if there was anything I missed, and I will go ahead and get set up so we can get ready and get digging into this information. Panel, take it away.
Warning, warning, warning. Hard hats, pickaxe, shovels, boots required.
Grand Rising, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Really, this would. Oh, hold on, they can't. Hold on, they can't hear y'all right now. Hold on, I got changed. Cause I got changed. Cause I got changed. No.
It's my how now, brown cows and peace.
No.
You're gonna force a countdown
You know what?
and
I'm
then
just gonna
decide,
hang
oh,
up.
you know what? Nobody can hear you. You know what?
Stop it.
I'm just gonna hang up.
Okay, they can hear y'all now.
I don't want them to hear me now. Now I don't. What if I don't want them to hear me? Mute me. There's a mutiny.
No, you're
Now you gonna hang up.
unmuted. You're unmuted. You're unmuted. Everybody can hear you. What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing?
Do it. Mute me. I know you want to. Hang up on me. Hang up on me. Do it. Go ahead. I'm right here. Hang up on me.
Do it.
You being
disrespectful.
Bones, why they give me such a hard time, Bones?
Watch my videos.
What's going
You
on,
need
bro?
to watch my videos.
Come on. You said 5, 4. That's the forced countdown. Wait. Nobody can hear you. Hold on. Nobody.
It was the weirdest countdown ever. He said you got a minute left, but then when he counted down, it was like double time. 1.
Grand Rising, everybody. How's everyone doing? Because obviously, me talking to them is not going to work. So, how's everybody in the?
You gonna talk to the crowd?
That's right. I'm gonna talk to people who's listening because y'all not.
I heard
Everything.
Just not
Everything was heard.
Just can I be heard? Hey, yo, can y'all hear me?
That's what we doing. That's how we doing it today. Grand Rising, everybody. Peace, everybody. Peace to the new subscribers on the Facebook, on the YouTube, and on the website.
Hey, don't coach me now.
You said don't. I hate when you do that. I hate when you do that. That really bothers me.
It does.
And there's nothing that I can do about it because it's funny.
Powhatan 9 said, "Get it together, TMH."
What? You the one that ain't got it together? Okay.
Why y'all ganging up on me?
I like that.
Why y'all ganging up on me? What I did? Huh? What I did?
It was probably that forced countdown. Wait, nobody can hear you. Hold on.
Don't be hating. That color doesn't look good on you. Doodle Vision says, anybody home? Yeah, can you hear us? Anyway, since ain't nobody else saying nothing. Grand Rising, peace to the panel. No sellout. Gabby Gabs, aka don't ask her no questions. Don't give her no mic. Bones.
Don't give me no mic.
Look, don't give me that to read. Don't give me that to read. Cause she's an aggressive clicker. Ain't that what
don't give me
Joe
no
47 called her yesterday?
He did.
She got a pile of mice in the corner. She breaking mice every day.
Hey, don't sell out. Did you see the feed last night when we rebroadcast the show? And David Corey was like, if you do, and Gabby
come on now. No, come on. Look, no. You so whack.
8:30 last night, so what happened?
No, let me explain. Let me explain. Because
you gotta explain before he tells me something.
Horrible, dirty. Let me explain. All right, double cousin. This what happened. Okay. So, David Corey, he text hashtag IFUDO. So I didn't understand what that was. Now TMH had already been messing with me and like not putting any spaces between the hashtag stuff he was doing. So like I
do remember like, the hashtag reading indigenously.
Right. I couldn't even read indigenously. Like I just felt cockeyed and Lexus, right? So I was like, put spaces because, words were turning into something. So
then they wouldn't be a hashtag, Gabby.
Huh?
It wouldn't be a hashtag if you put spaces in it. It's not clickable.
So hashtags don't have spaces?
Oh my goodness, girl. Hashtags are not sentences, madam. Corporations are people, my friend.
What'd you say, Bones?
What'd you say, Bones?
Is it safe to come out the corner yet?
No. I don't know, man. Because
wait.
this turn, we might take another turn. She just realized the hashtags don't need spaces.
See, I don't even. Okay, so because there were no spaces in the hashtags that TMH was doing, like the words were turning, and I was saying it, trying to read it out loud, sounding like I was special. So David Corey,
sounding like
Corey, David Corey, he did hashtag if you do. Now, between TMH and David Corey, like I'm there in the chat. They're talking about me. David Corey, TMH, and Joe 47 were having a conversation basically about me with the clicking and all that back and forth. I didn't know what that meant. If you do, I just was like, okay, what is that?
Was
What
it
is
all
that
caps?
acronym
That was
of course it was, yeah. All
of
caps,
course it was David Corey.
So I didn't know what the acronym was. So I'm asking both of them back and forth, what is that? And they're typing in LOL, LOL, going back and forth. And then finally,
yeah, I like the way she tells the story, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because everybody that was watching know what really happened. But go ahead.
Okay. I can just play this back and get a different version. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. Go ahead.
Yeah, Lilio.
So finally, TMH, he puts in there another hashtag with no spaces and says, go back and read the conversation. So even going back, reading the conversation, I still didn't understand that IFU, the letter U, DO, meant if you do. So I still didn't understand, asked again, and then TMH says, if you do. I thought it's saying, if I do what?
I remember the question mark.
She thought I was doing to her what she does to us. Go ahead, Gabby.
Tommy Gibbons.
I didn't even think you was doing that, but now that I think about it, you were.
No, I wasn't. But go ahead.
Well, she got a new beef with you now. She's like, all right, I was wrong on the first one, but wait a minute.
Come on, Gabby.
So finally it was explained that if you do meant that if TMH takes away my mouse, David Corey would get me another mouse. If you do, I would get you another. He would get me another mouse. Which I still didn't see where anyone said that they were going to take away my mouse.
Well, Joe 47 told me to take away your mouse.
So one of the problems, Gabster, is reading the chat and being involved in the audio. So trying to keep up with two conversations, the chat conversation and the conversation you're having live, is pretty tough to do. So even on the replay, I'll be trying to catch where people are laughing at my dumb tail, and I don't know what they're laughing at. I don't know what I said audio to see what they're laughing at in the chat. So you got to either line it up or be two places at once. And how you gonna act?
Oh, so you guys were commenting on what was being said in the show?
Yeah.
Most of the time, that's what's happening with the chat.
Yeah. Because you was clicking, they could hear your mouse clicking. And you was
if
going
you're
off
the
on
one that's
tangent.
involved in it, you can't really pay attention to both, unless you're paying attention to both.
Well, this was
I just now caught that.
This was a rebroadcast, so it wasn't live.
So she,
So she had an excuse.
You got to keep up. So you still only have two things to keep up with.
Yes, she had no excuse.
Really? You just hit me with you only had two jobs?
With the E.
All you had to do was read. No, I'm just saying. Bones, you can come out the corner now, bro.
No.
So I'm going to go ahead and give a shout out to the chat because they've been patiently waiting. So I'm going to go ahead and do Grand Rising and peace to Big Nelson, Big Hawk, Peace Bones, Grand Rising and peace to Celestial Love, Grand Rising and Peace to Doodoo Vision, Feather Dragon, Michael Harris Brown Cheek, Mr. TJ, Grand Rising, Phoenix Rose, aka Bang Rames, Power 109, T Tiny 04044. Then we have Coyote, Grand Rising and Peace.
Dudu said he gonna be late. He had linens and things picking up some curtains for Gabby for all them open windows.
It's not my fault.
It ain't my fault. Did I do that?
Yeah.
It ain't my fault.
Oh. Yeah, it is.
Mm-mm.
It is. It really is. It so is. Okay, so I think everybody's caught up now. You good, Gabby? So
Caught up.
So when Bones rebroadcasts the show this evening, you'll understand that we're commenting on what's being said in the chat. I mean, what's being said on the show. No? Yes? Did you just huff?
No, I sighed.
Side.
There's a difference.
Same thing. Crack pipe, peace pipe, same thing. All right, so let's go ahead and hit this clock so we can get to work. Let's do it.
Do it. Do it.
All right. So yesterday we were talking about the Mexican Indian Wars, and we were specifically talking about the Spanish conquest of the Aztec Empire and how they just, out of their many versions of this story, how they just have messed it up, and how Malinche was the one who allowed for the downfall of our ancestors. How the Toltecs end up taking over, basically, creating a whole new race of people. The Mestizo, who are nothing more, well, I don't want to say nothing more because I don't want to sound like I'm demeaning them, but they are a mixture of Berbers and Toltecs. So those are your Mestizos. And those are your Mexican Americans or your Native Americans born in the Yucatan and who have dual citizenship, if that makes sense. Grand Rising Macadam 1. Anybody got anything they want to add before we move forward about yesterday's conversation? I'm not going to do what we learned because every time that happens.
You see, I came off mute because you didn't do that.
Yeah.
I just want to shout out the chat, shout out everybody listening, and shout out everybody that's going to listen to the replay. Peace, y'all.
Really? Is that your way of getting it in? Because
I'm disappearing.
Disappear. Why would you disappear? Appear ain't doing anything.
It's Friday. You cut nuts here, man. Stop.
But I'm trying to figure out. I thought you was vegan. Why you assaulting fruit?
You know what? You know why? Well, I gotta assault fruit because I'm vegan.
Grand Rising Nature's Void.
Peace to the panel. Peace to the chat.
Peace to the Papa Stopper.
I'm gonna get one day.
Well, you can, after you wet up all your equipment, that's kind of like, never mind.
My lips kind of dry, so it's all right.
Doodle Vision says, Aztec are the overlapping of cultures bring those from across the Pacific with their relatives in the Americas. So he's talking about Talking about not just the Asians, but the Europeans too that mixed in. That's a good point, dude. Gabby. Gabrielle. Is she here? Is she on mute? She on mute and she's probably busy. Alright, so I'll go ahead and start reading. Can everybody see my screen? Let me see. Alright, so where did we stop off yesterday? Greetings, Division. Alright, so we'll pick up at Cortez had made alliance with the tributary city-states. I think we already read that. Yeah, we did. Gabby already read that. Alright, so let's go here. Start here. The other city-states also joined. So basically, this is after the conquest has already taken place, and after La Malinche has basically given him the keys to the kingdom, and basically told him the secrets which would allow them to come and infiltrate and use Catholicism to overlay their ancestral worship of Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan. So it goes in and it reads, other city-states also joined, including Kimpoala, and Yuko, Zico, and polities bordering Lake Texcoco. She already read that. In the inland lake system of the Valley of Mexico, particularly important to the Spanish success was the multilingual Nahuatl, a Mayan dialect of Spanish. Indigenous slave women, also known as Spanish conquistadores as Doña Marina and generally as La Malinche. Yeah, we talked about this yesterday. After 8 months of battles and negotiations, which overcame the diplomatic resistance of the Aztec Emperor Montezuma II to his visit, Cortez arrived in Tenochtitlan on 8 November 1519, where he took up residence with fellow Spaniards and their indigenous allies. When news reached Cortez of the death of several of his men during the Aztec attack on Totonacas in Veracruz, Cortez claims that he took Moctezuma captive. So here's something I wanted to bring to your attention, because the narrative is that Cortez came over here and he conquered, but what we're seeing now is that he was getting a butt kick before he actually got the information from La Malinche. Because it says, when news reached Cortez of the death of several of his men during the Aztec attack on Totonacs in Veracruz, it says he claims that he took Moctezuma captive. Then it says, capturing the cacique of indigenous ruler was standard operating procedure for Spaniards in their expansion in the Caribbean. So capturing Moctezuma had considerable precedent by modern scholars. It says, but modern scholars are skeptical that Cortez and his countrymen took Moctezuma captive at this time, which goes back to what we were saying. So let's see what the cacique are. And I'll put this link in the chat for further review. Let's see. Here we go. Alright, so that's the link, and it goes on to read that cacique, Iberian Spanish, Caike, Latin American Spanish, cacique, which is Portuguese, It's the feminine. The feminine form is cacique. Is a leader of the indigenous people derived from the Tiano word cacique for the pre-Columbian tribal chiefs in the Bahamas, the Greater Antilles, and the Northern Lesser Antilles in colonial era. Spaniards extended the words as a title for the leaders of practically all indigenous groups that they encountered in Western Hemisphere. In Spanish America, Brazil, Spain, and Portugal, the term also has come to mean a political boss or leader who exercises significant power in the political system known as caciquismo. So, cacique is considered a leader or basically a chief. And Cortez claimed that he had. The division says stop. Okay, where you want me to stop at? Cortez claimed that he had captured their cacique, but the scholars doubt that he did. And the reason why I'm saying that I doubt that he did was because there will be no need for him to capture the cacique if he's going to come in. If he's going to come in claiming to be Kukulkan, why would he need to capture the cacique? Now, the question is that is that the information that he was sending back to his superiors? So they would be under the impression that he has control. Then I can
What's the
understand why.
cacique?
Did you just ask me what a cacique was?
Mm-hmm.
I just read what a cacique was.
You said Jose Canseco, I think.
No, I didn't say Jose Canseco. Hold on. Doodle says, how can cacique be Portuguese when it is of Taino origin? That's a good question. I was just giving you what they said it meant, but yeah, your point is valid. A cacique is basically a leader, and it says it's a pre-Columbian tribal chiefs in the Bahamas, the Greater Antilles, and the Northern Lesser Antilles.
So what does that mean?
He was
aside from it being, go ahead.
A chief. He claimed they ain't got their chief. So when he claimed that he had got their chief after he discovered that his men had been getting their butts whipped, he had said that he had captured a cacique. And they say that's what they call indigenous ruler, which is standard operating procedure for Spaniards in their expansion in the Caribbean. So they had been trying to do this. This wasn't the only place they was doing this. Well, this wasn't the only place they was trying to do this. But it goes on to read that it says, but modern scholars are skeptical that Cortez and his countrymen took Montezuma captive at this time. It said they had great incentive to claim they did, owing to the laws of Spain at this time, but critical analysis of their personal writings suggests that Montezuma was not taken captive until a much later date, which goes back to what I said. So they had to. So what it boils down to is that they were lying when they was writing back to Spain or Iberia. So Doodle says go back to Danza de los Diablos. Oh, he's talking to Brother David Corey. Okay. But does that make sense, Gabby? What a cacique is?
I mean, so a cacique is basically a chief, a ruler, right?
Yeah, that's their definition of a chief or a tribal ruler in the Bahamas or in the on the islands, because that's where they were at. They were not at the Yucatan at this particular time.
So because right now we're talking about the Bahamas, which is an island, right?
Mm-hmm. Caribbean
or islands.
Yeah. Remember, the Toltec got banned, or they got banished to their islands by the Ita.
So what we're talking about is the Toltec.
Yeah. Yeah. Grand Rising, David Corey.
David Corey. So the Toltecs are basically saying that they took.
No, not the Toltecs. The Spaniards are saying that they took
The Toltecs.
one of the Toltecs chief, or what they call a cacique. Cacique. Dude, it just says Gabrielle Union is going to make me call in. Call on in, bro.
But weren't the Toltecs trying to say that they were something that they weren't?
Yeah, that's it. That's the reason why they got banished to the islands. They got removed from. Remember, they got removed from the Yucatan. They got sent to the Caribbean islands. Well, how do you think they got to the Caribbean islands? The Eta dropped them off there.
Right.
So the Eta left them over there, and then it says that when Cortez arrived in Tenochtitlan on 8 November 1519, where he took up residence with fellow Spaniards and their indigenous allies. It's basically saying that he arrived on one of the Caribbean islands. It says, does this link mention the Great Harlot? It does. We talked about the Great Harlot yesterday, James. Doña Marina La Malinche. Yeah, we talked about her yesterday. Matter of fact, Gabby was the one that read it. It's actually,
that's what I don't understand. Why is it significant that they took that? Why is it significant? Okay, the Spaniards taking the Toltecs chief. How is that significant?
Toltecs knew the ways.
Oh.
The Spaniards learned from the Toltecs that made it possible for them to come over and blend in. How else did they learn the indigenous ways?
Okay. Thank you, Bones.
Remember, the Spanish came to the islands before they came to any mainland.
Right. Oh, so to make them submissive, so to speak, they took their chief, which made them kind of surrender, made them compromise, which then they used them to learn the ways so that they can infiltrate. Okay, that makes sense now.
But that's the practice, but that's not what happened.
Okay, keep reading, TMH.
Because as I go back, it says capturing the cacique or indigenous ruler was standard operating procedure for Spaniards in their expansion in the Caribbean. So that was standard operating procedure. It says so capturing Montezuma and considerable precedent, but modern scholars are skeptical that Cortez had his countrymen took Montezuma captive at this time. So basically saying that they're skeptical that he had taken them captive. So he was lying. He was lying.
Montezuma. Is it the same as Montezuma?
Oh, let me do this. He says.
I was just saying that it sounded familiar. Does that sound?
Yeah, like the roller coaster ride Montezuma.
No, but I do know there's a person called Montezuma.
And there's a person named Montezuma, and it's also. Dude says Cortez came under the symbol of Kukulkan. Exactly. He came in representing Kukulkan. They thought that Kukulkan was returning, which allowed them to actually get the actual Mayans and the Aztecs to listen. They wouldn't have to capture him if they already thought that Kukulkan had returned. So all he had to do was tell them what to do, and they would do it. So they weren't forced to do it. They did it. Not only that, but they also were converting other Indians. So he didn't conquer them with force. He conquered them with trickery, or he conquered them with lies. They thought that he was somebody that he was not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So Montezuma was actually the Toltecs chief or ruler in the Caribs of the Bahamas. Okay. So then it goes on to read that Montezuma, captive at his time, it says they had great incentive, meaning the Iberians or the Ibers or the Spaniards had great incentive to claim that they did, owing to the laws of Spain at this time. but critical analysis of their personal writings suggests that Montezuma was not taken captive until a much later date. So when they was writing back to Spain, giving an update, he was lying to make it appear that he had already had things under control. You got to realize their writing is based off of his writings. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So then it says, when Cortez left Tenochtitlan to return to the coast and deal with the expedition of Panfilo de Narvaez, it says, sent to the reign of Cortez expedition that had exceeded its specified limits. Cortez's right-hand man, Pedro de Alvarado, was left in charge. Alvarado allowed a significant Aztec feast to be celebrated in Tenochtitlan, and on the pattern of their earlier masquerade in Cholula, closed off the square and massacred the celebrated Aztec noblemen. Wow. So they allowed them to have Pedro allowed them to have their feast, and he massacred the leaders. It says Alvarado massacre at the main temple of Tenochtitlan precipitated rebellion by the population of the city. Moctezuma was killed, although the sources do not agree of who killed him. According to one account, when Moctezuma, now seen by the population as a mere puppet of the invading Spaniards, attempted to calm the outraged populace, he was killed by a projectile. According to an indigenous account, the Spanish killed Moctezuma. Cortez had returned to Tenochtitlan, and his men fled the capital city during the Noche Triste in June 1520. The Spanish Tlaxcalans and reinforcements returned a year later on 13 August 1521 to a civilization that had been weakened by famine and smallpox. Here we go again. This made it easier to conquer the remaining Aztecs. We know that's a bunch of bull. Dude Vision says Cortez got slapped around by the Itza on Tenochtitlan. That's probably why he left. Revisionist history. So after they massacred some of the noblemen during that celebration, I guess the Itza put foot knee deep in their behind. Dude Vision says Noches equals night festival. Mr. TJ says, is there any way to turn off the ping when the messages are put into the chat? Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
Yes, all you got to do is hit the little gear up under the chat to where it say customize, and you can mute the sound.
Must be tough. That means I need to do that then, because that's what y'all hearing. Y'all hearing mine. And under customize, you said under the chat.
Yeah, it'd be right up under the search bar. It's a little gear. It should say customize. You click it, it'll come up with a window that say mute sounds or text color.
Let's see, reset. There it is, customize. Hopefully that'll help. Alright. So where was I? Yeah, the Noche Triste is a night dance. No. Everybody, look. I prefer. The reason why I wanted the ding to stay there is because it's some background noise that y'all know that people still live when they ain't saying nothing. Since we ain't got no music right now. So, but it's okay. The ding should be gone. All right. So, where we at? Yeah, but you able to read, or do I need to still read some?
I mean, I didn't know you want me to read. I thought you were leading, so I wouldn't click and veer off.
Yeah, I was calling for you, but I guess you didn't hit me. Yeah, I called for you. You didn't answer, so I started reading.
Oh, yeah, I didn't hear that.
Oh, okay. Well, it's all good. I'll read everything until we get to contents, and then you can pick up. What? I'm just saying.
Wait, you said until we get to contents?
Yeah, I'm gonna read everything up into contents, and then you can read everything under contents. Because right now we're at 13 August 1521. It says they were weakened by famine and smallpox. And it said this made it easy to conquer remaining Aztecs. That's not what happened. They always want to claim famine and smallpox. Think about this: these people have been here for thousands of years, and all of a sudden you leave for a year, you come back, and famine and smallpox took them out. Go somewhere.
I mean, because they keep bringing it up, it makes me wonder what famine and smallpox actually is. It makes me wonder if, okay, we were gone for a year, so we don't know what happened, unless they were probably doing things in the background, like.
So let me explain it to you this way. Whenever they're trying to kill off a race of people, they always blame smallpox and famine. Just like when they try to kill off the Indians in the North America, aka Americas, they say, well, we killed them off via famine and smallpox, but the slaves stayed alive.
Mm-hmm.
No, what they're saying is that they end up reclassifying the Indians as black. So smallpox didn't kill them off; they just reclassified them. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Whenever they don't want to explain what happened to a group of people, they write them out of history with that, saying that famine and disease took them out.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
How did they know it was smallpox?
Good question.
Think about it. How would they know?
Don't you know the best
How
doctors
would they
are Europeans?
know?
Dudovision says, how were they starving to death when they were growing the crops? Hey, that's my whole point. But see, because we're taught not to ask those questions as children, we just accept it. So it says many of those on Cortez expedition in 1519 had never seen combat before, including Cortez. A whole generation of Spaniards later participated in expeditions in the Caribbean and Tierra Firme, Central America. Learning strategy and tactics of successful enterprises, the Spaniards' conquest of Mexico had antecedents with established practices. Antecedents. What does that even mean? Anyway, the fall of the Aztec Empire was the key event in the formation of the Spanish Empire overseas with New Spain, which later became Mexico. Big Hawk says, throwing in them pigs in the wild, eating all the food. Yeah, Big Hawk, but see, here's the problem. We'd have to be under the assumption that skilled hunters couldn't kill the pigs and keep the pigs away. Now, the pigs may have affected some of the crops, but the pigs didn't affect all of the crops. Because if that's the case, then none of us would be here, especially those of us who have ancestors that are Northeast tribes. Because if you let them dictate the history, all of us come from Africa, because all the Africans got killed by famine and smallpox. David Corey said that sounds as if they knew of a disease by name. That being the case, they should have never come. They should never came over here. Again, like Boone says, how do you know they died of smallpox when you were gone for a whole year? And how do you know they died of starvation? And if they died of starvation,
well, I want to know who discovered smallpox, how, and what are the symptoms, and is that the reason why everybody can just say it was smallpox? What are other diseases at? Where the tuberculosis
at? Again, great questions.
Where the hippopotamus sea at?
You said where the hippopotamus sea at? I mean, I can look up smallpox. Give me a second. I mean, we've done it before.
I just want to know the year, who discovered it, and how can you tell in the field that a whole group of people?
I mean, smallpox is a horrible looking.
Well, don't look up that. I don't want to see no images now, unless it was like a small Tupac.
It says before smallpox was eradicated, it was a serious infectious disease caused by the Varroa virus. It was contagious, meaning it spread from one person to another. People who had smallpox had a fever and a distinctive progressive skin rash. Most people with smallpox recovered, but about 3 out of every 10 people with the disease died. Many smallpox survivors had permanent scars over large areas of their body, especially their faces. Some were left blind.
I got a question.
Thanks to the success of vaccine, smallpox was eradicated, and no case of naturally reoccurring smallpox have ever happened since 1977. The last natural outbreak of smallpox in the United States occurred in 1949. So if this is the case, there should have been a lot of Indians that were blind and had massive scars, but you don't hear about.
I got a question.
I got
a question. So okay, so one of the questions is, and it was just what you just said, TMH. Are you saying that smallpox is usually race or ethnicity specific?
No, it doesn't say it's race and ethnicity specific. It says it's contagious.
Okay.
Go ahead.
That wasn't my question.
Okay.
So my question. Hold on, Gabby. One more question. So my other question is, where them 30% at? Where the 70% at?
Right.
You said 30% of people get it.
It says 3 out of every 10 people with the disease died.
But 7 people survived.
Right. So their explanation was, well, with the smallpox didn't kill them, the famine killed them.
The majority. Okay. So the other 70% couldn't eat.
Right.
All right. I'm going on mute. Go ahead, Gabby.
Go ahead, Gabby. What's your question?
Okay, so it was like a week ago. It was something that I veered off on, reading up on smallpox. It said that smallpox came from dead bodies. The dead bodies that they had on ships when they would ship the. I'm trying to pull up the link now. It's a disease that was carried on the bodies. It came from the handling of how they handled the dead bodies.
Well, here's something that's crazy. What do they do with dead bodies on a ship?
They throw
them overboard.
Right, so they're not bringing them on the island. So if smallpox comes from dead bodies, then the dead bodies would have been in the water.
Gabby, you saying from handling them, or just dead bodies?
That's what it was. They got the smallpox from dealing with mummies, with mummified bodies.
Who was dealing with mummified bodies?
Yeah, who the hell?
Whoever was raiding tombs.
What? I'm confused. So Lord Crawl.
Doodle Vision says, wouldn't the West Africans get smallpox on slave ships? Ooh, that's a good one. You want to see a dead body? That's what's up, man. That's real talk.
All right, hold up. Just wait 1 minute. Let's rewind all this real quick.
What was
that?
He said rewind. Hold on. Let me
number again. Smallpox is what again, please? What is it again?
What are you talking
Disease?
about? Death rate?
No.
300 million people.
What type of disease is it again?
It's
And how
a
does this?
it's a serious infectious disease caused by the variola virus. It was contagious, meaning it spread from one person to another. People who had smallpox had a fever and a distinctive progressive skin rash. Most people with smallpox recovered, but about 3 out of every 10 people with the disease died. Many smallpox survivors have permanent scars over large areas of their body, especially their faces. Some are left blind.
Okay, so now this disease affects all human beings. It
Right.
does not
This,
dictate what type of human being is going to jump to.
right.
So how? See, we don't have to go no further, relatives. So why should we believe this disease killed all the Indians and not the Europeans? What stopped the Europeans from catching it? What
This
stopped
is
them from dying?
this is why I asked you, TMH. Was it race or
And
ethnicity
what
specific?
stopped what stopped the slaves from getting it?
What
What
stop
stopped
anybody? If
everybody
it
from
ain't
dying?
race and ethnicity from specific, it's human to human. What stop
Human to
anybody from
human.
getting it?
So that means
Oh
everybody
no,
should
it
have
has
listen. 3 out of 7 of everybody should have been popping off.
threats.
Talking
First of
back.
all, they had hazmat suits back then, Bones. I forgot to tell you. I think I saw a picture on Google.
I mean, it's really no sense to even go no further with that once you know, like, oh, okay, now this virus does not pick between particular ethnic groups and backgrounds. It affects all human beings.
Yeah,
So,
so this is smallpox, not sickle cell. Is that what you're saying?
yeah. So even if you was here and you hopped on
Exactly.
the ship, wouldn't you be taking it back to Europe with you? What would
Big
Mhm.
old facts,
need to stop? It
bruh.
has to stop.
That's exactly why I asked if it's race or ethnicity Pacific
I don't
or
care if
Atlantic.
we dug it up out of a hole in the middle of nowhere. You have to explain to me if a group of people had this and it was around another group of people, what stopped everybody from being infected? Please explain this one. And if the disease was around to the 70s and last outbreaks was 1940, why is there still people here in 2019 if it killed all the Indians?
And you don't hear
Are
any
you always lying?
and then you don't hear any African Americans ever coming out with smallpox. You ever notice that? There is no case of any Africans slaves coming out with smallpox. Coincidence?
It wasn't us.
Man, listen. The way they should have been no doggone slave master that had no slaves. Everybody out of
Why
here.
you always
Are you
lying?
always dying?
You said it at the same time I played the soundbite.
When I said dying, we need to change that just for the day. My God.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm not even gonna play that game with them. No, not even mentally, not consciously or subconsciously, because that doesn't make sense. This is a disease that affects all human beings. Matter of fact, it's affecting all human beings up to the 1940s. So
It says it is serious. It was a serious infectious disease caused by the variola virus.
A human disease from a human virus. Am I correct or incorrect? It's not a chicken, wild chicken, mad mad pig and swine cow disease from an animal. It's human to human virus
Human to human.
that caused the human disease that is not race specific.
And this is from the CDC, Center for Disease Control.
Oh, you talking about the get? Okay.
Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. This is what their definition is. So,
control is in that and just like a narrative in history. But that don't make no sense. A whole group of people dead. Oh, they dead because of the smallpox. And then the other 70% of them couldn't even bring themselves to plant a seed.
and you know something that would be funny? Let me see something. If history is supportive, wouldn't you would think they would have talked about smallpox and the Center for Disease Control, which has access and records of everything concerning the history of disease, wouldn't they have mentioned that this disease was responsible for wiping out the majority of the Native Americans? Because according to American history, smallpox was responsible basically for wiping out over 70% of the population. So that would have been worthy of noting by the Center of Disease Control because it would have been a historical fact.
But add this on top of it. If it eliminated more than 70% of the Indians, why are the Europeans walking around on this continent? It should have eliminated over 70% of them that was over here too.
I agree with you. I'm just saying. The narrative don't. Doodle Vision says man, bear, pig disease. I mean, I agree. I'm not disagreeing
Let me
with
guess,
anything.
out of that 10, every 3 was an Indian.
So apparently there's 7 strains of it, 6 to 7 different strains.
It could be
starts off as
100
like
of
a
it.
flu.
It could be 100 of it. It still lies to the point. It doesn't affect you by your background. Your background has nothing to do whether you can catch this. They have to explain why the Europeans wasn't around here dropping like flies like the Indians.
And the slaves, they said they were brought over here. Why weren't the slaves catching smallpox disease?
They're not.
Wow.
That's the elephant in the room. We cannot allow them to even get around that because that has to be answered. If they're telling you this disease did this, so how is it anybody else? It's a special disease. Smallpox only go after Indians. But if that's the case, they got to explain the smallpox outbreak in Europe. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I got a question.
What's up?
So all these smallpox blanket jokes and things that's been said over the years has literally just been like little farce or stretched or embellished stories about the disease.
If you got smallpox in blankets, when you catch it,
how you hand them out? Hazmat suits, man. I'm telling you. They had the hazmat suits in the 1800s.
How did they transport it? How did they move it? It can be airborne. So how did you stop your population from catching it?
Incubators. They had all of this. Time travelers. It had to be. Otherwise, it's just a lie. I think it's easier to lie than the time.
So you had a whole crew on the ship for about a month with smallpox in a suitcase
with a handcuff. They had a handcuff to him. It's a serious business deal going down right now.
Just think about it. All the stuff they can tell you about smallpox, that's modern day information. Wasn't nobody back there in the 1600s talking about 4 or 5 strains of smallpox? They wasn't even calling it smallpox at that time.
Exactly.
So what is the Ebola virus? Because apparently the variola virus, comes from, okay, it turns into the variola virus for a body, for a body that's infected with Ebola, the body is still infectious after death.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand.
Here's a funny thing. Look on your ancestors' death certificates and see where they died from. If that's the case, if smallpox was as ravenous as they claim it was, it should be on death certificates.
Exactly.
You just hit them in the head. Look, now you hit the anti-genealogy-ers in the head with that one. They ain't gonna look at
these newspaper clippings of the 1800s of people just falling out sick everywhere.
Come on, man. Y'all doing too much. It's Friday. You got to be talking truth now.
It kills, what it said, out of every 10 people, it kills 3, right?
Three. That ain't no small. That's still not a small number out of 10.
That's 30% of the population.
That's 30% of the population.
Not only 30% of the population, but also too, elite. The survivors are left with major scars on their face, and some are left blind.
So show me in the history where the census population dropped down 30%. Then we can start the conversation.
Show me that. Hold on, were cameras around in the time that we talking about? What the timeline?
Took census. It should show it on the census when 30% of the population dropped at.
I need some smallpox scar photos too.
And also, there should be a rise in blindness in certain populations.
Yep.
Come on, man. Look,
according to the census.
I thought it was just the Native Americans. Supposedly, it's not race specific. That ain't even a race. I'm confused. I'm ultimately confused. Where is Gabby when you need her?
Well, apparently the church was hiding this.
What?
But again, even when they say that, how did you store affected smallpox in the 1500s, 1600s, 1700s? I'll even give you the 1800s.
Okay, so the first known, it's 1580 in ancestral form of smallpox.
And when did they get it contained? 1970 something. So exactly. It's known for wiping populations everywhere. It don't pick and choose by race and color. I say that to say this. So what European is walking around in America recording infected Indians with smallpox? Well, who's walking around doing this?
Yeah. Can we get the process CDC since you the control?
This says 1 in every 100. There's two major strains, variola and virulence. The
talking
variola
about Ebola now, right?
Huh?
You're talking about Ebola now, right?
Technically, I'm still talking about smallpox.
No, keep it to the version of smallpox, not the Ebola version.
Yeah.
No. Under smallpox, there's the variola and there's the virulence. It's 2 strains.
Go with the older. Listen to what I'm saying. Go under the older strain because the Ebola has been modified. You can't go with that.
No.
What I'm saying is the history on the Ebola side of it would be newer.
Right. See, unless you're digging up bodies in the 15 and 1600s, how do you know which strain that they're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. So who releasing who exhuming bodies? Who's saying yes? You can dig up my ancestors and check this out.
Okay, who's the who?
No. Okay.
No, just anybody.
He's saying go with the oldest.
People, the Indians, we're talking about the 1500s where Indians supposed to be infected with smallpox in the 1500s. See, Ebola and all this breaking down, this is modern. So go back to what they were saying about the 1500s. The numbers on smallpox, we know 30% of the population is supposed to be gone.
Hold on. Now, is it 30% of the population? Oh, you read that, TMH. 30% of the population, was that for smallpox then?
Smallpox, period.
Smallpox, period. So no matter what, the infection, the death rate is 30% and the survival rate is 70%. And you have scars and blindness in some of the 70% population that survived.
Yeah, dealing just off of that, dealing with the times of going into the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, there should be a showing.
Yeah, there definitely should be. But now that's where it gets back to, are they lying about being race specific at that time though?
Okay, so you said who said that the Ebola virus was eradicated in the 70s?
We're talking about the smallpox.
I mean, not Ebola. I meant to say smallpox.
Yeah, the CDC smallpox was what, 1970, right?
It said thanks to success of vaccination, smallpox was eradicated, and no case of naturally occurring smallpox have happened since 1977. The last natural outbreak of smallpox in the United States occurred in 1949.
So apparently the WHO cleared it and said that the smallpox virus was eradicated in the 1940s, and the WHO was founded and established in 1948.
Yeah, basically what they said is it's not eradicated. You got to remember, what do they do with viruses? They contain them and freeze them. They contain them and freeze them, and they make variants. That's why they said no natural case of it, because
That's
the
right.
smallpox after 1940 wasn't natural.
They use as biochemical. They use in biochemical warfare.
Right.
That's how you get Ebola. Ebola was built for biochemical warfare. That's why it's newer. That's what I said. You can't use the Ebola side of that virus. That's after they done modified it, put some changes to it.
What's going on, Judo Vision? How you doing, bro? What you got for us?
Do division.
All is well.
976 doo-doo.
That's a 24-hour hotline too.
So help us understand this. Indians decimated by smallpox madness, because it's just some things just ain't adding up, James, with this smallpox. Every time they want to kill off a group of people, they say smallpox killed them, but you don't hear any cases of all these quote unquote slaves catching smallpox or the colonies catching smallpox.
It's their way of eradicating the fact that we were already here, because they say all of these Indians got killed by smallpox and were replaced by West Africans. So they cannot explain how people that look like us, that are us, that we still have the same culture, were here. That's why I said they can't explain Bonaparte. They cannot explain the Olmec heads. They cannot explain Chichen Itza. They can't explain it. So they say all the Indians, and that's the same thing that these Native Americans are saying, oh, they got killed by smallpox, because these Native Americans, what we know as Native Americans, were not here in great numbers. They were not here like that. So that's how they do it. So now you kill, tens of millions of Indians with smallpox weapons, and you replace them with tens of millions of West Africans. Come on, son.
And I'm glad that Doodoo said that, because now let's
Doppelganger.
go back. No, let's go back and look at the smallpox, how it get injected into the Indian story. You notice smallpox took their numbers down, so it wasn't enough Indians to do the work, and they had to be replaced with who?
Us, supposedly Africans.
Smallpox
Come
is
with
just
us.
another story like 1942. It's the overlay. It's where the overlay started. Because the story states that the Indians, they were too weak, they were dying from smallpox, so they had to bring in a new workforce.
Right. But that workforce was impervious to smallpox, because smallpox didn't get eradicated until 1970, 1949. Mm-hmm. But when you look at smallpox and the epidemics in Africa, there was major epidemics in Africa with people catching smallpox. So if that's the case, then how is it that you don't hear about it, the African or slaves coming over here with large cases of smallpox?
Bingo. And they even, if you read some of the stories, they'll tell you that the Indians were getting sick, and the Africans, the immune system, they wasn't getting sick. They wasn't dying from the smallpox. Like TMH just said, you can go look at the records to see that's some baloney, and not Oscar Mayer again.
Because they talk about the Portuguese spreading the disease to people from Angola in 1484. Then it talks about the 1864 epidemic killed 25,000 inhabitants in Angola.
Mm-hmm.
So here's my question. You got the people in Ethiopia and Sudan being hit with smallpox, but according to the race to Africa, they weren't in these places until the middle 1800s. 1880.
Yeah, remember they was in Northern Africa. Central Africa was 1880.
Right. So again, things aren't lining up. Timelines aren't lining up. And if a Pan-African wanna if a Pan-African wanna debate that, just let's inject him with smallpox and see if he died from it. Because according to history, East Africans should be immune to smallpox, right? So we should be able to inject everybody that claimed that has East African ancestry with smallpox, and they should be alive. Yes? No? I'm just saying. But that's just my mentality. How far are you willing to go for what you claim you believe in? Put your money where your mouth is. Or put your immune system where your mouth is. Surely is quiet. Where everybody at?
No, I'm still here. I wonder if one of these historians is gonna come up with that answer.
They're not. They're just gonna ignore it. That's all. Michael Harris Brown cheeks had smallpox from the first KKK. I'm just saying so. So then it talks about the significant events and conquest of Central Mexico. Historical sources for the conquest of Mexico recount some of the same events in both Spanish and indigenous sources. Others, however, are unique to a particular primary source or group narrating the event. Individuals and groups laud their own accomplishments, while often denigrating or ignoring those of their opponents or their allies, or both. So they're basically explaining why timelines ain't matching when it comes to Spain. (1428) the creation of the Triple Alliance of Tenochtitlan, Texcoco, and Tlacopan. This is 1492. Columbus reaches the Caribbean, started permanent Spanish settlements. 1493 to 1515, Spanish exploration, conquest, and settlement in Caribbean and Spanish Main.
So I got a question. Okay, Christopher Columbus lands in the Caribbean.
That's what they say.
And what was the year that the Spanish went to the Bahamas?
1519. Cortez is there in 1519. You got 1517. You have them going to the Yucatan coast. People are looking at the screen just so they can see the timelines. See, the timelines are off because, again, Spain does not come into existence until 1502. 1502, they have Moctezuma elected the Huey Tana Emperor of the Triple Alliance. You can't have him elected a part of the Triple Alliance in 1428 when there were no Spaniards that existed in 1428. So the timeline is off. So was it 1428 or was it 1528?
And you gotta even watch when they be putting that term Spaniard in there, because you gotta remember that's a more descriptive term.
Spain did not come into existence until 1502. So anything before 1502 is not Spain. So who are these people?
You can identify them as Iberians.
Yeah, so they wouldn't be flying up under the Spanish flag. They would be flying up under the Ottoman Empire.
Yep.
So why is Spain given the recognition when they shouldn't be getting it? That's all I'm asking. Just want some clarity. That's all. So all this is timelines. Then it talks about sources for the conquest of Central Mexico. Do you see that, Gabby?
No. What? Okay. Tell me again. What did you say?
the habitual clicking got her. She done went off on like 12 tangents. I am on the Spanish conquest of the Aztec Empire. I'm past the timelines, so I'm at this.
I think I'm on the wrong Wikipedia link. Can you put a link in the chat, please?
Why?
Oh no!
Oh no! Hey! Got it?
I got my question. It may be off topic, kind of. No. Okay, no. I don't have. Oh, other chat.
I'll put it in both chats. How about that?
No. I got it.
Big Hawk says, "Oh, you read Big Hawk's question. What's your question, Big Hawk?" Grand Rising, EJ Capitone. What's your question, Big Hawk? How many African American museums in the country? In the United States? I mean, I think every state has their own African American museum. They didn't have one. They just recently put up one in DC, but that wasn't funded by the Smithsonian. That was privately funded. That should tell you something.
150.
So there you have it, 150.
In 37 states.
Big Hawk says, I thought it was only one in Detroit.
And only 10 of them are truly focused on African American history, African history.
Something to think about, huh? So, Gabby, are you there yet?
Oh. Okay, now where am I at?
Sources for the conquest of Central Mexico.
Okay, I'm there.
Okay, do you want to share your screen? Because just in case you get click-itis. I'm just asking. You ain't got to.
I mean, I can.
Okay. Because we want to go where you go. You welcome, Big Hawk. Gabby on another continent right now. Okay, hold on, let me. Oh gosh.
You got smallpox from having all those windows open. Close those windows.
Hold on. All right, now we can see what you can see, Gabby.
Okay. The conquest of Mexico. That's where I'm at, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The initial destruction of the great pre-Columbian civilization is a significant event. Is a significant event in world history. The conquest was well documented by a variety of sources with differing points of view, including indigenous accounts by both allies and opponents. Accounts by the Spanish conquerors exist from the first landfall of Veracruz, Mexico, on Good Friday, the 22nd of April, 1519, to the final victory of the Mexica in Teclotitlan on the 13th of August, 1521. Notably, the accounts of the conquest, Spanish and indigenous alike, have bias and exaggerations. Some, though not all, Spanish accounts downplay the support of the indigenous allies. Conquerors' accounts exaggerate individual contributions to the conquest at the expense of their comrades, while indigenous allies' accounts stress their loyalty and importance in victory for the Spanish. These accounts are similar to Spanish conquerors' accounts contained in petitions for rewards, known as Benemerito petitions.
So check this out. So stop right quick. So in reading that, what are you doing?
Huh?
We can see your screen, Gabby. You just moved to pre-Columbia era in Wikipedia. See, this will have multiple screens will help you. This is the thing that I find interesting. They are setting the table by telling you that there are various versions of the same story. So to me, and it's just my perspective, they're basically telling you that the conquistadors are lying. They're exaggerating their role at the expense of their comrades. So they're lying. No matter how you want to dress it up, they're lying about the story. So if they're lying a little bit about the story, who's to say that the whole story is not a lie? I mean, am I missing something? Anybody want to, talk about that or want to discuss that? Or
Yeah, because go back and all you have to do is go back and look at the adventures of those that came after Cortez. Look at the adventures of De Soto. All they were doing was they were coming over here and having babies with the Indians. And so now their children are Hispanic. All you got to do is keep looking. Why do you think, again, look at it. All you have to do is look up Negroes on the coast of Mesoamerica. And all of these ancient sites that they say were Olmec establishments, we're still there. Look up La Venta, look up Veracruz, look up
You said
Costa
on the
Chica,
coast of what?
in Mesoamerica. Look up Veracruz, look up Guerrero, look up Oaxaca. Look at all of these places, and we are still there. Why do you think, again, the Indians in Mexico tore down the statue of Cortez II, of Martin, which was Cortez's and the Great Harlot's son? Why do you think they tore that statue down? They're lying. And why do you think, again, go back and look again, when did Cortez attack? What festival? They were having a festival, a night festival. How did he know to attack then? Look at the work that the Great Harlot did. That is why you have this great division. And they say we had no part in that. They just came over here and started having babies. And so their children, that's why I said there's a separation between someone saying that they're Latino and someone that's saying that they're Hispanic. If they're saying they're Hispanic, then they're saying they're honoring their fathers from Spain, from the Iberian Peninsula, including the Portuguese. As y'all read before about the cacica. Why is it that they're saying, oh, a Portuguese origin, but then you come to find out, wait a minute, this is a Taino word meaning chief. Come on, son. That's why I said people keep talking about when you hear Latin, when you hear Spanish, they keep saying, oh, it's from there and it came over here. No, Ladino started here. They didn't have words like that. They tore the statue down. Come on, son. Look at what they're doing. Look how they playing. They are trying to fix. They're trying to go back in time. They're trying to be Marty McFly and want to keep going back and changing the past and bringing it to the future. Because they have to explain why a Guerrero still there. And then they say, oh, you got African roots. But none of them can tie to Africa. They can tell you all about the history of being in Mesoamerica, but they can't tell you what tribe they came from in Africa. Just like the Carib. When you deal with the Garifino, and the Garifino are nothing but derivative of the Guerrero. Why is it that the Garifino can go as deep as where they were, the island that they started in, how they came aboard, and the whole nine, but they can't tell you what African tribe they came from because they didn't come from Africa. They're playing with your mind when you figure it out. Like I say, you look at all of the traditions. That's why I say again, go back to the dance of the devil. The dance of the devil were those rulers from the Carib that would come to the mainland and marry. Because again, you're not going to kill your relatives. Look at all those places that I just gave you. Look at all those places on the coast. Again, when you deal with Chilena, Chilango, look at all those terminologies that I'm giving you, and none of them can tie back to Africa. Even those that are today that have been brainwashed like we have been will say, oh, we came from Africa. And you ask them where, and you get a blank stare. Why is it all of these so-called African traditions that are not African keep popping up, but they can't tell you where they came from in Africa? Indoctrination. I yield the mic. Gabrielle Union, why is your screen blank? Why is your window blank? What'd you do?
You know she's doing some research. She's looking up stuff. She got clickitis.
My screen's blank. I'm sharing.
Not blank now. But go back again, like I say, just before you went to pre-Columbia, just before Cortez and the Great Harlot, because you have to go back in the history and understand how the Great Harlot ended up in the Caribbean islands. How did she end up in the West Indies? Her people were exiled. She was mad because her people were Toltecas. They got kicked out. But she already knew the traditions from living in the land. Why? Because the Tolteca had already been in Chichen Itza and they got kicked out. They were impersonating the high priest. So they knew about the festive days. They knew when to strike. It wasn't just any night. Again, go back and why they put the significance of that festival, which was at night, striking like cowards do. If you're going to fight me when I'm awake. Don't fight me while I'm during a festive time, during a holy day. I'm like on rush hour, fight like a man. Put the gun down, fight like a man. Uh-oh. Did the chat get smallpox? So it's quiet in here.
He said the check is smallpox. Grand Rising Oak Cliff.
You're showing those pictures. The Aztecas are no one, or what you call the Aztecs, are no one but the Pacific Islanders and those from Asia that came back. All they did was come back, which is why you have Nuwa or Nuwat. That's why they call it the language, meaning the mother nah of the waters. All you did was just come back. That's all it is. That's why you see those traditions over there. And that's why, again, when you go and look at the Spanish writings, they're going to be in Spanish. But again, if you have a translator, it would translate into English for you. And they tell you that Negro land was from the Americas all the way to the Philippines. Because everywhere they went, not only were the people looking alike, they kept doing the same culture. That's why I said it's not just important to say someone looks like you, but what is their culture? What are they practicing? From the head, from the halos on their head that we call afros, to the traditional dance, the earth dance. It is the same thing. It is the same culture. It hasn't changed.
We hear you over there, girl. We hear you. Click, 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 click. It says an Italian explorer Giovanni de Verrazzano wrote a description in 1524 of the Carolina Indians he encountered. He wrote, "The complexion of the Carolina Indians is black, not much different from that of the Ethiopians. Their hair is black and thick and not very long, tied back behind the head like a small tail. As for the physique of these men, they are well proportioned, of medium height, a little taller than we are. They have broad chests, strong arms, and the legs and the other parts of the body are well composed. They're broad in the face and have big black eyes. They have a sharp cunning and are agile and swift runners."
Man, I wish you wouldn't.
He just described 80% of the NBA. That's what I'm saying. Come on, son.
50% of the NBA.
And that's in the Carolinas again.
50% of the NBA, 90% of the NFL.
Hey, I'm telling you.
What was that from, TMH?
It's on Gabby's screen.
What was it from though? Where's the excerpt?
freespeakingblog.blogspot.com.
No. Who OG wrote it? Who was the person that you said wrote it from North Carolina?
Giovanni de Verrazzano.
De Verrazzano.
Yeah,
okay.
that's who I use to crush those Pan-Africanists. I used that 5 years ago. We had a it was supposed to have been a debate, but it turned out to be a discussion because they got scared from 5 years ago.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Pan-African Indian.
It's gonna be a talk. We're gonna talk. We're gonna have a discussion. We're not gonna have a debate.
Wave that white flag.
Yeah. That's what I said. And this is Carolinas, and the people that they're describing there, those are your Itza. This is why I say again, it wasn't smallpox. When they came back, the people were gone because we had other lands to go to. You will see the influx. Well, hopefully we'll get to that a little bit later, in a couple of weeks. We'll see the influx of those coming from Mesoamerica into the southeastern United States and along the coast, the Atlantic coast of the United States, because we left because it had already been this. I'll say this again. I know this is gonna get me in trouble. But when people keep talking about these magic formulas and how they can do this and how everything can be explained, And there's some things that cannot be explained. One, when you give me the formula for love, show me the magic formula that shows how much someone loves you. There is no such thing. And then
This big.
show me the calculation for deja vu.
Ooh, that's a
Because
good one.
the wise ones
That's a
and the
good movie.
elders have been saying that white men were going to come. White men were going to come. And they were going to come with a vengeance. So our people were already prepared. We had other lands to go to, which is why now they're starting to discover, like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, the Mayas were here. But you heard about all these different places because these were ancient lands that we had already been on before. This wasn't new territory. But you notice that these people, when they talk about, oh, we found a ancient Mayan civilization in Georgia, in Stone Mountain, they never describe the people. Why don't they? And why do they keep finding the little statuettes of the big-eyed deity known as Taklak? Why they keep finding the bug-eyed deity? Come on, son. Why they find this bug-eyed deity in what they know called Easter Island today? Why were they finding this bug-eyed deity, Taklak, in the Philippines? Why are they finding these things? Why these so-called Africans that they were bringing over have these little statuettes in their hands when they were on the ships? Because these were Indians that they were shipping from the Caribbean to the mainland, from the Caribbean into Mesoamerica, from the Caribbean to South America, and from South America to North America. Come on, son. Come on. Show me Taklak in West Africa. You're not going to find them. If you say Taklak in West Africa, they'll be like, what? What is this? Because they have no clue.
What is this talk? What is this talk of Taklak?
I got a question, and I don't want to sound slow asking it.
Okay,
but
well, ask it
if
fast.
I do, it is. I know, right? Okay. So the Caribbeans, the islands, all consist of what? Okay. Who did the Toltec turn into?
They are still I'll put it this way. These are some of those that are, like I said, walking around that are calling themselves Hispanic. There is a huge, this is what we don't understand because we don't really study Latin America like that. There is a huge divide. And these Hispanics, which are the descendants of descendants of descendants of descendants, are the ones that are running these Latin countries today. They are what we would call Native Americans. Their fathers came from Iberia and North Africa, which is all the same. And they had children. They had children. And you have those, I'm gonna put it this way. You have those that are hardcore Hispanic. Then you have those that are down there that will tell you, you know, I'm Maya, I'm this and that, whatever, Kiche Maya, whatever the case may be. And then there's a group, and that's why I said you can't just always go by looks. You can look at one person and look at another person and they look alike, and one person will tell you, no, I am this. My people come or Carib. And you like, wait a minute, you look Hispanic. Now, not saying that they don't have Iberian blood in them, but they have stuck to their Indian culture. That's why I say again, it's not a race, it's a culture. Therein lies the difference. And so now you have what we call westernized European way of thinking that have infiltrated Mesoamerica into getting this separation, because there was no separation when it came to what they call Afro-Latinas today. And Afro-Latinas had nothing to do with the connection to Africa. They keep writing this stuff in there. Had everything to do with their curly or frizzy hair, or they had locks. And that's what the key is. And so now they're separating, where in the beginning there was no separation by what they call race. There was no separation. It was all about the culture. And to show you that these people were always in these lands, again, as I already explained, People wasn't traveling by land like that. Why would you walk from Florida to Mexico when you can go by boat and it's much quicker? This is where the Itza comes in. This is why you very rarely find any writings in English about the Itza for that very reason. So again, go back to John Horse and Guerrero and the connection, because they already knew they were cousins. Because when the Spaniards started coming in, you had groups by the boatload started leaving and going back to the other ancient lands before the Great Flood, which we know as southeast and the Atlantic coast of the United States today. I know I'm talking too much. I yield the mic.
Nah, you good, bro. I mean, you giving us a lesson, so I mean, I ain't got a problem with what you saying.
I'm listening and taking notes.
Yeah, I just turned off your screen share. So.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so see, so James, here's a question. I mean, because right now on your night builds, on your evening builds, you're talking about the Chichen Itza, you're talking about the Itza, you're talking about basically the Uli. And you talk about the importance of tying back to the Mayan culture. So it's very possible, correct me if I'm wrong, it's very possible for all of us to have, which looking at I'll take me because I can't speak for anybody else. I already know I have relatives, ancestors from Europe. But it's not about where my people are from so much so as to what culture I relate to. Because yes, I have Indian culture. Yes, I have European culture. So I can align myself with either culture. So the culture that I align myself with based off of my genealogy is who I am identifying as. Is that my correct understanding?
Yes, sir. That is on it. And what we will find is, as we've been taught before, because we've watched many series, a lot of us like Roots, and we think all of this, Europeans come, oh, they were, okay, this is still AM. They were graping all of our people, and that's how I can no. Our tribes were adopting these people into our culture, and they were having babies. You're going to find out more often than not, you are not a byproduct of your ancestors being great. They were not. I'm going to take the G off. I'm doing that for the kids because I know some of the kids are out for, the winter break. So they were not. That was not happening. They were being adopted in, and it's dealing with the culture. Even read about Benjamin Franklin was adopted in. His father was adopted in to the culture. These Quakers were adopted in to the culture. Huguenots were adopted in to the culture. So people that keep saying, oh, that's why I say you can't go by the way someone looks. So if you're coming over here and you want to be West African and you embracing the West African culture and you like to eat poop pies, then knock yourself out. You are West African by culture because you have embraced it. I yield the mic. I know I said too much. I yield the mic.
No, you're good.
So mistaken identity?
No, it's what is your culture? What is it that you practice? Have you been, and here's a problem though. Those that are claiming these Pan-Africanists that are claiming to be West African, what West African culture has adopted you? See, the people have to adopt you. Otherwise, you faking the funk. You go back to what I said before about these biker clubs. You wearing these patches, but who initiated you? Where was your rites of passage? They're faking the funk. Because no West African is going to wear an ankh. Come on, son. How you going to talk about my aunt? Where's my aunt in West Africa? But you're going to find my aunt in the Americas prior to it being over in Egypt. Oh, I gave another nugget. I'm sorry. I'll say that for later on. I say that for the night class.
So let me ask you this question. Is it safe to say that there are two distinct American Indian or Indian Native American cultures? Because we know, according to 1924, we are all titled as Native American. So is it safe to say that there are two distinct Native American cultures? One culture that goes back and identifies back to the Maya culture, and then the other culture that identifies with the Plains Indian culture, if I'm saying it correctly.
Yes, sir, you are correct. And you'll find out, and we didn't get to it the other night, but the Tolteca solicited help from these Plain Indians. The Aha or Ah Kunol. These are the rulers that are your Plains Indians, which is why those Plains Indians speak Uto Azteca. How did they learn the language? Because the Toltecas got tired of getting slapped around by the Tutulziu or the Tutulziu and the Itza. I say again, go back and look at Cortez again, slow it down. When he got to Tenochtitlan, he had to leave because the Itza, which are our Navy, circled the wagons and started slapping them around. A lot of his ships got destroyed by the Itza. That's why he had to leave. And he tried again. He came back because he started learning the culture more and more, learning more and more from the great harlot and her people, because she wasn't solo. You got to think, her people, her clan was kicked out along with the others. They were exiled. Some decided to stay and did the right thing, and others said, hey, you've got to go because you have committed the great abomination by stepping foot into the holy place. You were not coming into Chichen Itza like that. You didn't deserve to be there. Then you coming in, then you perpetrating that you are a priest. You've got to go. But those that were in there, that's why they were cutting their heads off. Because it has always been taught in our culture that when you cut the heads off, the spirits can't come back to get you. The spirit cannot go into another living vessel to take over, if that makes sense. That's why you see like these sorcery movies, they always say, cut off the head, cut off the head. So the spirit cannot go into another living body and come back to get revenge. I hope what I'm saying makes sense, and I hope I didn't spook anybody out today.
No, you could. So here's another question, because as we are starting to, and this goes into being able to reach the Native Americans who are part of the Plains Indian culture. There is a distinct divide. They have their division from us, and we have our division from them. But we're going to need each other because these scammers are and have infiltrated both camps. So when some of these Plains Indians who we're starting to have discussions with, like the Lumbee, start talking about assimilating or taking on their culture, are they aware that we are of Mayan descent, or do they back up and stop this mess when they realize, when we show them that we're from the Mayan culture? How does that work, and what's been your experience, being that you've actually talked to a lot of the chiefs from over there?
A lot of them is when they know, when you come in knowing who you are, because they're not going to volunteer that information.
Right.
You know, they're going, like I said, they're going to give you the $2, the 2 peso tour and say, oh, this and that, blah, blah, blah. But when you let them know who you are, then they open up about who they are, and they admit. That's why I say again, they don't go off how you look. They don't go off how you look. They go off who you are. What is your culture? What are you practicing? So you'll see those that look what we call Asian. You have those that look what we call more Hispanic. We have those that look just like you and I here on the panel. You'll have all of them blending in, and they will tell you the truth once you coming in. Because are you coming in as a African American? Are you coming in as a Westernized European culture? Or are you coming as an Asian? How are you coming? How are you coming in? So once you identify with who you are and the practices of the culture, they understand that we're one and the same. We're one and the same. Because if someone is sitting here, and that's why I say again, if someone is, let's give an example. If a European, when they came over, if they were adopted in by your tribe and they have children, okay, they're going to be labeled as what you call mulatto or whatever. And this is where they get all the different division of quadroon, octoroon, octagon, Optimus Prime, and all the rest of this stuff. But if you continue to stay in your culture and your children's children, another European comes in and is adopted in and embracing your culture. So now you have a relative that can pass, because we have relatives that still pass in the day, as European, but they're practicing your culture because they've been there. And when they talk about my people have been here, because it still goes back to, yes, it takes a mother and a father to create a child, but who were these Europeans having babies with? So if you're still practicing your culture and they say, well, this person looks like this, this person looks like that, this is where you get these Melungeons, because they're still practicing the culture of their ancestors. But you would classify them as white. You would say they were European. And they're saying, no, we're not. So just like the same is dealing with, and this is why, this is where, again, these Pan-Africanists get hemmed up. If you're bringing the majority, if you're saying, let's just go with their theory and say 20 million came over. The majority of them, 80 to 90% of them are men. Who are these men mating with? See? Uh-oh. So then who are you again? Because I'm still trying to find these West African cultures all throughout the Americas that I can't find. You're not finding. So when they talk about, oh, African drums and this and that, no. Again, the drumstick over here. Again, maracas, all of these dances here. So where's the West African food? Where's the West African culture? So what culture, West Africans, were your people practicing when they got to the Americas? You won't find it. Tap dance, ham bone, said that before. Show me the West African cultures. Surely not the headgear, surely not the dress. So what culture were your people and are your people practicing? And they try to get you hemmed up with DNA. DNA cannot show you or display to you your culture. I yield the mic.
Okay, so with that being said, a lot of these Plains Indians, or a lot of these Indians who subscribe to the Plains Indians culture, they are in many sense right when they talk about quote unquote African Americans basically still in their culture, because you have a lot of African Americans wearing these Plain Indians headdress, rocking their garb, and now rocking Mayan garb or doing Mayan culture. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, sir. And that's why, again, was the separation of the split to where you find it in dealing with the languages. Again, the Nuwa or Nuwa language is a blend from the languages coming from the Pacific Islands along with Maya. When the wars were taking place and the Maya were winning these wars, they were pushing those into the area of Utah and Colorado and Iowa and all these other places, like I said, all these plains areas, they were there. Some of them didn't start coming back down until the Toltecas solicited them to help overthrow and take over what we know as the Mayan or the Maya, I don't want to say royalty, but for lack of a better word, royalty, to overthrow them.
Right.
So you had those coming that were upset. They got exiled to the Caribbean islands. You had those that were pushed into the plains areas where nothing grew. Where you get it, so actually, once you get into West Texas and just keep going up, as we know, like I said, the area as Tornado Alley, why are you going to live when the heavens would open up and just destroy everything you had? And those plain Indians, again, that separate us from them, is they were living in teepees because they were nomads. They were a nomadic group of people. They always have been nomads. They had no place to call home, which is why they can show you the beads. They can make you a little headdress. They can make you a little garb, and they'll beat on the stupid drum, and they off rhythm, and they'll hey, and they'll do that the whole time. But they won't tell you where they come from. Follow me. But when you get into Mesoamerica, and you start speaking to these dons, those that talk a lot, and like I say, I hate that translation, but that's the way it translates. Those that talk a lot and start speaking to the wise ones and the elders, and you start sitting down and talking to them, and they show you by culture how it separates. Because those that are true Indians are tied to the land. And there's a difference between an Indian and a Native American. A Native American is not tied to the land. I yield the mic.
Okay. And the reason why I'm asking this question, because I know that many of us are going to be encountering Native Americans that practice Plains Indians culture, and we're going to have to understand how to address them, because at the end of the day, and correct me if I'm wrong, James, they are addressing people correctly, so they're not going off of the way you look. If you come with a quote unquote African American culture claiming Indian, then they gonna check you. But if you come representing your Mayan culture, then they have to respect it. Am I correct, James?
You are correct. And how you're able to separate the two is when you start having conversations. Here's another buzzword, a buzz phrase. When you start having conversations with them about the mother civilization, they're going to take you back to the Uli. They're going to take you back to the Alibamu. They're going to take you back to what the world as a whole calls the Olmec. And again, you're going to see those Olmecs that look what they call Negroid features. You're going to have those that have what we call Asian features, because it was about a culture. And those that went over there, because some went to Asia, and some adopted the cultures that were over there in Asia, and some stuck to the traditions of the culture that were from the Americas. And when they started coming back by the boatloads, you had a blend. You had some of those that were still practicing the Maya culture. You had some that were practicing their own Asiatic cultures. And so you had a blend. And this is where the problem came in, is when you had Toltecas who were rocking locks, and they were coming over and trying to take over the Maya culture and make it this blend culture. And they're like, no, because everything, like I said, keep reading, everything was fine until the Tolteca kept trying to go and take over Chichen Itza. That's the holy place. That is the place of the priest. That is the place of the Zabutek, or the Zapat, or the Saba, the Saba, the Sabians, those that were keepers of the books. And that's how the Spaniards came when they destroyed all these books that we so-called didn't have. Go back and read again where it says the friar was talking about how they burned all the books. And then they started rewriting, but they didn't destroy all the books. Because we're not crazy like that. We're not keeping all the books in one place, especially when we saw the invasion coming. Which is why you have this divide now between those that try to tell you the Spanish version of what happened on what took place in Mesoamerica, and then you have those that have not only the oral tradition but still have the writing, and are saying it didn't happen that way. 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 Because again, in Bonaparte, you're looking at people on the ground, the Toltecas, that are getting their forefingers chopped off, and there are other scenes to where they were actually the Mayas were putting the spears through their heads, taking the spears and jabbing them in the head. All that did on the mule, and it's not even finished in Bonaparte. So you have all these people that look alike. Again, if somebody doesn't look like you and you know they're an enemy, you can see them coming. But those that look like you and blend in with you, those are the ones. That's why I said those are the gut checking time. So they coming in and blending in and started to put another culture into the holy place. That's where the problem came in. And that's why I say still to this day, you have the central Mexican government and you have those of the Yucatan that are still fighting over Chichen Itza and all these other holy places. The Ecbalam temple, the whole nine, the temple of the monkey, all of that. They're still fighting over these places because the central government of Mexico, which are primarily running it, are Hispanic, are trying to take it over and want to rewrite history. I know I'm babbling on, and I apologize. I yield the mic.
No, I mean you're basically giving us the truth of what's going on. Because once they rewrite that history, they can finish erasing us out. Because right now, that's basically one of the things that's keeping us in history, is what's going on in Chichen Itza, or the history that's in Chichen Itza. Correct?
Yes, sir. And that's, like I say again, that's why they won't tell you, because if you just hear the word Mexican, you're gonna automatically have in your mind that there's a certain look to a Mexican. Not understanding that these Mexicans are Mexica. So the Mexica is a blending of different peoples that look alike but share a certain culture. So and when you get an opportunity, I beg anyone, please say you get a Groupon or something, whatever you need to do to go to that area, and you will see without a shadow of a doubt, you'll see all these different people. Like I said, when you look at them on the surface, like I said, it is literally a rainbow. When you look at them, but you're saying, what are the cultures of these people? And you can't go by the way they look, because again, where did these so-called Afro-Latinos, how were they already here under being the Olmec, and then go even deeper? Because they can say, oh, well, the Olmec heads is not them. That's not them. That's not you all. But they cannot hide or deny the paintings in Bonaparte in the temple. So where did those people go? So how does all of a sudden that you have the Olmec, that some, favor us, have our features, let's just say, because you don't know the color of a stone, it's just a stone, you don't know the color of their facial features. Okay, go ahead, go with that. But then you're going to tell me that the people that were doing the mural in Bonaparte didn't know what their leaders looked like? You will tell me they were so dumb that all of a sudden they're like, oh, I'm going to paint this like an African, even though I've never seen an African. Before the European invasion, why are they painting people that so-called look African, but don't have any African tradition, don't have any African garb on? They still leaving out the Jaguar. They still leaving out the Jaguar clan, the Jaguar people, the leaders. So leaving all of them out, then all of a sudden, there's a group of people of Indians, or what we've been known as Indians, what describing by plain Indians. We look at Tonto and all the rest of these people. Where did the Chilango, where did they go? Smallpox? Where did they go when you just read again about the description of the Indians in the Carolinas? Where did they go? Did they all just die and then all of a sudden they came back and now they looking exactly like these so-called African Americans that you brought over here on slave ships? Come on, son. I'm still trying to figure it out. Like I said, I know I keep babbling on. I apologize. to those on the panel and those in the chat. But that every time you want to throw in smallpox, and then you say, oh, we all died of hunger and starvation and smallpox, yet you're reading in the same stories, and you heard from Chief Warhorse again. As long as we were helping the Europeans eat, that's why when people get caught up in Thanksgiving and all that, I don't get caught up in that hype. Whoa, it's Slaughter Day. Thanksgiving was a festival that was already done long before the Europeans came. They just invited the Europeans to the picnic. That's all. It was still a part of our tradition. It hasn't changed. So anybody that gets caught up in that, go back to the origin of it. Because before the Pilgrims, what we call Thanksgiving today, the festivities, the games, the coming together was still done. You call it a powwow today. Some of us, I don't like to use that word because powwow has been run with synonymous with scam. So I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm off the mic. I got it.
Okay, so we should be focusing more on the culture than the race of things, which is basically what you and Bones been trying to tell me for the longest. So hopefully the people in the panel understand that. Hopefully the people in the chat understand that. Hopefully those that are listening understand it. It's not about your race. It's about what culture and who has adopted you into that culture. If you are a part of that culture because of your tribal membership or because of your ancestors, that's one thing. If not, then that means you need to have been adopted in, regardless of whether you're claiming Pan-African or what, whether you're claiming Irish or what. Has anybody seen that commercial? It's I think it's an Irish rum commercial, and the controversial MMA fighter is advertising their rum. And he said something that was very prominent. I understand why Bones and No Sellout and Copper Indio and Gabby and those of you who watch movies. I have a better understanding now of why y'all are such proponents of certain movies. But he made this comment. He says, we didn't come to assimilate. We came to take over. Has anybody seen that commercial?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Keep telling Bones, you gotta do this race build. I'm telling you.
That was a very powerful statement. And it was very powerful to me because I understand the Irish and how they came over and their mindset. They came over because they were starving because of the potato famine, and our ancestors were sending them potatoes. So now they come over here with the ideology of not being humble because we were helping them. They came over to take over, which is the reason why a lot of them in the police force up north. So, but that should give you an ideology of the mindset of these immigrants. And he's what, third or fourth generation Irish? Matter of fact, he's not from here. He's from Ireland, correct?
Affirmative.
Yeah, so he's from Ireland. But he fights MMA in the United States. And the fact that that commercial was made, that commercial gets shown a lot, especially on ESPN. That's one of the few channels that I indulge in watching it a lot. That's one of my I guess vices of sports. And when I saw that commercial and I saw him say that, and just the way it was stated, it made me think about the Black Irish that came over here who did not come over here to assimilate. They came over here to take over. And if we really do listen to those individuals who are claiming more from the standpoint of not a religious practice, but from a standpoint of sovereign and separatist practice, they have the same ideology. They came to take over. They came to take our ancestors' lands. They came to take our ancestors' resources. And they're using our own people to do it. Am I safe in saying that, James?
You're spot on. The best analogy I can give is there was, for a short time, a concert and album and all this grand promotion with two groups of people and their entourages. It was Jay-Z on one side, and it was R. Smelly on the other side. And that album and tour was called Best of Both Worlds. It was short-lived, like a shooting star. It was a flash and then it was gone.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
Because I won't get into the graphics of what happened backstage and behind the scenes, but Jay-Z ended up knocking R. Smelly out because he saw something and he's like, I can't be a part of this. And this is what's happening when you're trying to blend in these different groups and saying, oh, we're all coming together as one. This is what these that are coming with the sovereign citizenship more movement, because you're saying you have ties to Morocco, but then you're saying you're American Indian. That's why I say again, you have those that look like quote unquote Hispanic, but you would think of traditional Hispanic, and they'll tell you, no, I'm not Hispanic. I'm Latino. I'm Latina. And here's what I'm still practicing to this day. There's a huge difference.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yes. Where'd you go, Gabrielle Union?
She went back on mute. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, how she just gonna bust in like Missy Elliott on Ladies Night when she said, "Who you think I am, Patti LaBelle or something, just singing hooks?"
I ain't just gonna be sitting up here just singing hooks.
Oh man, so let me tell you what I just did, and I do apologize. I just had a really crazy moment. I forgot I turned the volume down on my computer, and so I heard low voices, but I wasn't sure what was happening, and all I saw was everybody on mute for like a whole minute, and I thought I missed something and forgot I turned also the volume down on my phone. So I set myself up. I do apologize.
Gabby.
I get it. I get it. Bullets too. I get it.
As long as you know.
This one I get. This one I get. This one I get. I apologize, Dudu. I really do. My bad. Man.
No, you good, Gabby. This is Gabby's night. And I'm feeling right.
Mic check. Can y'all hear me? Okay. Y'all can.
10-4.
And when I said, "Can y'all hear me?" and I didn't hear anything, I thought something was wrong. And then I realized the muffle was the volume had been turned down. So yeah, I get that one. I apologize, dude. I apologize.
I apologize.
Good job, TMH.
What y'all know about that Anita Faker?
Ooh, you call her Anita Faker.
No, you were good. You were good, Sister Gabby. Gabby, I'm gonna call you that. I have to call you that though. I'm sorry. You're always gonna be Gabrielle Union to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where it comes in though. With the I say again, because there is a division. Like I said, there's a difference between those that are more as far as practicing in the sense of a religious standpoint, and then those that are coming and trying to be sovereign. That's why I said this auspices of sovereign citizen. Because how can you be a sovereign citizen and be a Moor because you tie back to Morocco, or you trying to tie back to Morocco? So wouldn't you be a Moroccan? So how can you be a sovereign citizen and be a Moroccan while living in the America? Man, that's confusing. Don't ask me to say that again.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing that I hear people say that supports sovereignty and supports separatism, and they use semantics. You can't be a sovereign and be a citizen. There's no such thing. So I choose not to use the word sovereign citizen, because then you got those that are listening that are part of the silent majority right now. So they're not claiming sovereign citizen, but they're claiming sovereign, meaning that they want to separate from the government because the government is corrupt and the government is this and the government is that, which I keep trying to explain to people that if the government is so corrupt and over 90% of the world has United States military bases on it, where are you going? How are you separating from one of the most powerful militaries on the planet by separating on the land where it is headquartered? No one has answered that question yet. They never answered that question.
Claiming to be sovereign while still using U.S. currency.
U.S. currency, U.S. phone towers, U.S. government internet, U.S. based automobiles that they don't put plates on. They produce nothing, but they use everything based in the U.S., but they're sovereign. It would make more sense if everything that you got was Moroccan. That would make sense if you had access to a Moroccan cell phone tower, if you had access to Moroccan built cars, if you had access to a Moroccan currency. That will make a lot more sense than using United States stuff claiming that you're sovereign. That makes no sense. And you can't be sovereign and you can't separate and declare a monarch on a country that has an existing government. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me, please. Let me know. I could be wrong. It's possible.
No, you're right. And that's why I say again, you can't be sovereign and claiming that you're Moroccan because you still fall under the Moroccan Empire. You cannot, there's no, how you going to get away from that? You're still going to go back to the Ottoman Empire. How do you get away from that? You can't get away from it. Now you can say you have diplomatic immunity if you're over here, but that means that you are a foreigner. So you can't have it both ways. You can't say I'm an American Indian, but I have diplomatic immunity. Because that means that you over here in this land, you're visiting, but your home is Morocco. Stop playing. I yield the mic.
And the only way they can actually have diplomatic immunity and be an Indian is if they're a member of one of those 575 federally recognized tribes that actually has a U.S. that actually has an embassy. But basically means that you have diplomatic immunity as long as you are on that soil. And now you are no longer sovereign. You are a ward of the federal government because the federal government now has control of all the assets on that land because that land is in the United States trust, controlled by the Congress. So unless you are part of a foreign country where you have access to the embassy, you can never have diplomatic immunity, nor be sovereign on any part of the America soil, North, Central, or South America. And if I'm wrong, somebody please correct me.
No, you are correct, sir. I'm trying to figure out, did Morocco make them ambassadors? The ambassador of the state of Morocco?
Like I said, anybody that want to have a conversation with a Moroccan, let me know. There's one in my office, and his brother drives for one of the princes of the United Arab Emirates, and they got a lot of political ties, and not just Morocco, but overseas. So if you want to have a conversation about Morocco, I'm the one you should come holler at. Or you could just produce your own Moroccan who's gonna vouch for you. That, for me, that would be your best bet. Produce a Moroccan that's gonna vouch for you and say that your claims as a Moor are valid. but I got a feeling they're not going to do that. What do you think, James?
Well, I have no doubt that it's not happening. You have a better chance of them presenting a maraca versus a Morocco.
Ooh.
You're not going to find a Moroccan, and they're not going to buy into what you're trying to do.
So I guess for them, proof would be a problem. Okay. It's okay, though. It's okay.
Gabrielle Union, you still over there hitting switches?
Yeah, I'm here.
I know you said you had a question about 45 minutes ago.
That was like, I don't know, 12 questions in my head ago. 45 minutes ago.
We were talking about cultures. We were talking about Plains Indian culture versus.
Okay. So, okay, what I meant by mistaken identity is mistaken identity of culture. So when you say, let me not say when you say, when we take a type of understanding or a type of knowing that what we embrace is what we ultimately are accepting, whether it was pushed, convincingly on us, or just whatever we choose, whatever we embrace, that's what we choose. But at the end of the day, it's a form of a mistaken identity because it may not have anything to do with you. Right? Wrong?
Right. I'll give you an example of being African American. As we mentioned before, that was the push of Jesse Jackson.
Right.
You could not have convinced my mother that she was African American. And she was not going to embrace that culture because we weren't African. My grandmother was like, that was a total foreign term to her. Never understood. My grandmother was born in 1907. She didn't know anything about what African. And my great grandmother, who was born before the turn of the last century, clueless to that. That's why I say and I say and I say again. But now you have those that have told since 1988. Think about, there's a whole generation that's grown that has never known any term outside of African American, and they have embraced it, totally embraced it. And they have taken on a culture that is truly not a culture. I would say that again. They have taken on a culture that is truly not a culture. Because the things that so-called African Americans practice, they don't practice those things in Africa. Where do they practice those things? In Africa. Y'all just really honestly think about it. What culture are African Americans practicing? Again, don't give me voodoo, because voodoo is from the Americas. Like I said, you can't have voodoo without having the dance of the Diablos, and you can't have voodoo without the Day of the Dead. You cannot. So where are these African traditions that you're talking about? You're African American, just dealing with, they all with voodoo. Show me. It's nowhere to be found.
So James,
that's why I'm gonna say this number, yield the mic.
Okay.
That's why you have someone that's saying he's an Indian, but say he knows nothing about voodoo, lets you know he's West African, son, because West Africans don't do that. I yield the mic. I gotta go.
So James, is it safe to say, as we tie this into a bow, a nice little package, if you will, that everything that we've been learning today and that we've learned and that you've been teaching people since you could remember, since your elders have brought to you, the defining of our culture as a people from the false narrative of 1492, the false narrative of smallpox, the false narrative of 12 to 14 million people coming over here on a ship to be enslaved, is a created culture that we have accepted as a whole over the past 32 years, that has been created specifically for us to denounce, knowingly or unknowingly, a Mayan culture that they're trying to erase. But in order to erase a culture, you have to replace said culture. So is it safe to say that the African American culture is a culture that we've been duped to replacing our Mayan culture with?
No doubt. You eliminate it. You take on the same tactics as the westernized Europeans. When they were coming, it's not even about the physical defeat in war. It is dealing with the psyche and the spiritual aspect when you're destroyed in war. And what I mean by the psyche is when they destroyed the libraries. If you notice, that was always their tactics. It come in and let's destroy. First of all, let's learn the culture. Let's learn their ways. Let's revamp it and write ourselves into history and destroy their books. That's the way it's always been done. That's how they do it, destroying the books. Just look up just look, here we go, because I know we got a Googleologist in the house and Sister Gabrielle Union. Since you over there and you having a good time, I want you to open up one more window and just Google, just put it on the libraries destroyed by fire. And you'll be amazed on how many libraries all over the world have been destroyed. And how the Amazon forest, all of a sudden, the museum down there, when people start going down there and figuring out, oh, wait a minute, this is dealing with some people tied back to North America. Why'd that catch on fire? Why all of these census records buildings all over, you see what I'm saying, caught on fire? Ones in Arkansas catching on fire. How did that start happening? I yield the mic.
Tell me why.
Oh, see someone sharing their screen. It's gonna get good. But no, Sarah, that you.
My bad.
Double cousin. Okay, I got it up.
I got it up too, and I was talking on mute.
Okay, so unshare.
Yeah, you can unshare. That way you can still do your clicking and things and do what you do. Okay, so list of destroyed libraries. It says libraries have been deliberately or accidentally destroyed or badly damaged. Sometimes a library is purposely destroyed as a form of cultural cleansing. Keep that in mind. There are examples of accidentally destroyed libraries by human actions. Other times they are damaged by natural disasters like earthquakes, floods, or accidental fires. Library fires have happened sporadically through the centuries. Notably, examples are the destruction of the Library of Alexandria, destruction of the Library of Nalanda in India, and the accidental burning of the Duchess Anna Amelia Library in Weimar. Causes vary from arsons to the sun's rays setting fire to leaflets around the action of magnifying lenses, as happened to the Library of Northern Devon. Cause and prevention. The early times of mildew was considered a major problem in many libraries, and so the emphasis of a library design was to increase airflow by For example, leaving openings under the shells and adjoining floors in a fire, the flames will be drawn floor by floor by the air flowing, thus ensuring a relative ease destruction of the whole library rather than a small section. So, let's look at this. '20 BC.
So in the Mayan,
Yang Palace. Go ahead, Gabby.
no, I'm just saying in the Mayan. Okay, they said that they destroyed the Aztec Mayan civilization in 1519 to 1521, but they didn't go to destroy the library until 1562.
They had to put themselves in the history books before they had to put themselves in the history book before they could destroy the history books to create a new history. So that should let you know how many books there were. So you got the Zhang Yang Palace and States Archives, 206 BC, Library of Alexandria, disputed, Library of Antioch, Library of Seraphim, Library of Al-Hakam, Library of Ray, Library of, these are a lot of libraries.
That's how you control world history. Destroy it and replace it with your own.
Mayan codices of the Yucatan, Mexico and Guatemala, 1562-07-12. Diego de Langa. Bishop de Landa, a Franciscan monk and conquistador during the Spanish conquest of the Yucatan, wrote, "We found a large number of books in these characters, and as they contain nothing in which were not to be seen as superstition and lies of the devil, we burned them, all which they, the Maya, regretted to an amazing degree, and which caused them much affliction. Only 3 exact codices are widely considered unquestionably authentic."
And that's when good became evil and evil became good.
Mm-hmm.
The Diablos. That's why when you go down, and that's why I said people, because you get indoctrinated by Christianity, you go to Mesoamerica and they'll say, who do you pay tribute to? Your ancestors. And they say, Diablo, the devil. Which why again, what is the symbol of the Maya? Even their so-called, the show that has the motorcycle game, it's the skull and bones. Again, Papa Legba, look at him again. What became known as our culture became evil. When you look at the dance of the devil and you think of the devil and they have the horns on and the whole nine in the mask and they have the beards, our culture became known as evil, became known as witchcraft. It's the witches of the waterways, because they didn't understand it. So now you are evil. You are the devil. Now look up all of the things that they say about and I'm not trying to get it from a religious standpoint. I'm trying to get it from a historical standpoint.
Right.
What do they say? What was so-called Satan in charge of? Music. What are we known for? Music. Dance. Look all of that up. And then come back and read that collection of books that you call the Bible again. And tell me who's who. I yield the mic.
And it's also lists here that there are several libraries in Mexico City and major Mexican cities from 1856 to 1867. It says, now think about this. What was happening in 1856 and 1867?
There was a whole lot of wars going on.
Weren't they coming out with okay, so right above that, I didn't know the Library of Congress had been burnt down.
Yes.
1814. It said
that was during the War of 1812.
Yep. When British forces set fire to the U.S. Capitol during the burning of Washington. which basically means they had to rewrite a lot of history too.
Oh, Alabama's library in 1865.
How convenient. 1865.
Mosque Library, Ottoman Empire, 1877.
Oh, snap. Because those Ottomans have been saying they've been coming over here and trading with the Indians over here for centuries. Yeah, go ahead.
Royal Library of Kings of Burma, 1885. Whoa, wait a minute. They were burning all the libraries around the same time.
Exactly.
Then they stopped from 18. So basically, from 1885, 1865 to 1887, they were burning. Nope, 1850. So from 1850 was from 1850 50-ish to 1890-ish. They were burning libraries, and then they kicked it up again between 1900s, 1923, 1922, 1931, 1933, 1937.
Now here's something that you should find interesting. Why would they burn public records of Office of Ireland in Dublin, Ireland?
Those dubs.
Why Dublin, Ireland?
What year? Wait, which one is that you're seeing? Where's that one?
1922. This is the Four Courts was occupied by anti-treaty IRA at the start of the Irish Civil War. The building was bombarded by the provisional government forces under Michael Collins. But why would they burn public records, Office of Ireland?
Maybe
To cover up the over half their population was shipped out to the Americas.
Not only that, but also they got rid of the fact that a majority of their population were black. Because dub means what? Swarthy. Dark,
Exactly.
black.
Dublin is land of the blacks. Land of the dubs. Dublin. They done doubled down on you. And also showed that the Inter were coming over there.
Wait
again.
And this is in 1922. Right before 1924. What happened in 1924?
Y'all gonna figure it out. Because then you're gonna because
That's
again,
why we said you got to look at the timeline and add the whole world to it, not just a small area.
Because again, you're gonna see the connection to know. Because when those Irish were starving to death, how did they have the connection with the Choctaw to get those potatoes? And now those potatoes are known as Irish potatoes, but they are Choctaw potatoes.
And you would know that they were Choctaw potatoes because it would be in the public records in the Office of Ireland, but you can't find it now because it burned down in 1922, 2 years before they made all Indians Native Americans.
Yahtzee. You sank my battleship.
Slow it down.
Remember, Indian Reclassification Act, 1924, known as the Snyder Act.
Several religious libraries. Madrid, Spain, 1931.
In the movies,
religious libraries.
I call that.
Madrid, Spain, which would basically be Iberia, where the Ottomans ruled.
Story.
Say again.
It sounded like they tying up their loose ends for their story.
Yeah. Then you got the Institut für Sexual Wissenschaft in Berlin, Nazi Germany, 1933.
This is my story.
It says on 6 May 1933, the Dutchcraft made an organized attack on the Institute of Sexual Research. A few days later, the Institute's library and archives were publicly hauled out and burned in the streets of the Arberenplatz. National University of Shanghai University, 1937 to 1945, World War II Japanese troops. Well, why would you burn their libraries? Because you'll see that a lot of them were heavily melanated individuals. I'm starting to think that a lot of these wars were disguised just so they can just burn and recreate history.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And not just that, it lines up with world population census that they had in Americas, UK.
Remember this. These people are not enemies. How can America and China be enemies, but they got trade agreements? How can America and Britain be enemies and they have trade agreements? How? They were never enemies. It was always a disguise. Make you look over here while they doing what they really need to get done.
I mean, it's just like all the national libraries all over the world and all the capital cities have been burned down or bombed.
How do they have a world population in 1000 BC?
They don't.
Wow. 2003, 2004. Iraq National Library and Archive, Al-Aqaf Library, Central Library of the University of Baghdad, Library of Bat al-Hakma, Central Library of the University of Mosul, and other libraries.
Yeah, because remember, Iraq and Iran is their new name. That's not their original names.
It's Persian. It's Persian.
Persia. They had to go get rid of them Persian records to hide some things. Basically start erasing certain people out of history so you can put them where you want to put them in history.
Egyptian Scientific Institute, 2011, 2012. It said before the library was burned down, it contained over 20,000 manuscripts, with only a fraction of them having been scanned. As of January 2013, before during occupation, more than 300,000 Timbuktu manuscripts from the institution and from private libraries were saved and moved to more secure locations.
Whose private library, though?
Can I share my screen real quick?
Sure.
Real quick. I just found this interesting. I was looking at the timelines for the census that they have created in different countries. Came across this world population percentage, and it reminded me of 23andMe.
Hold on, give me a second. Give me a second. I gotta shrink this right quick. Crap. Alright, let me go ahead and... Alright, there we go. Alright, people should be able to see your screen now.
So this reminded me of 23andMe because I see all this world population percentage, blah, blah, blah. And then there's this 29.8% other. Like on 23andMe, you have like a certain percentage of your DNA that they can't account for and can't designate.
But that should make you think, why is there such a concerted effort to remove our likeness and our image and our history from the world? That's a lot to be doing.
Well,
That's the only way they can truly put you in Africa. Persians got records of trading with American Indians.
Oh, most
All
definitely.
these other civilizations have us in their records, have us in their history. That's why they have to get rid of it.
Yeah, and you look at it again in that area. What was known as Persia is known as Sumeria. The thing about it is they could destroy the books, and they tried to blast through the stones. That's why you keep seeing all these images of the nose and the lips that are been chiseled out or blown off of these certain statues. And in other places, their images hadn't been touched.
Right.
You go down and you look at it, you'll see so many Olmec heads. And here's the kicker. You'll see so many Olmec heads that have cannon indentions in it, but then they buried the heads. That lets you know. They after it, because they like, we can't destroy this stone, this solid stone. Then they buried the heads. Think about it. They went that far. You go into Samaria, you will see, again, the bearded ones with the wings. They have the incense, I call it the magic bag of tricks, like Felix the Cat. And you'll see a pine cone in the other hand. Because burning the pine cone is what keeps off the mosquitoes, AKA malaria. See, these are things they never factored in when you're dealing with the waters. Mosquitoes are going to come. How did how were they able to go all these different places and never get malaria? Pine cone. Where's pine cone from? The Americas. They are trying to eliminate, and because they're teaching this theory, and they're trying to do the same thing in Mesoamerica, that they're teaching that the land was empty. There was only a few hundred people here, a few hundred people there, but they came over and it was just empty land, free land to roam. But all these other places they're talking about, they had trade and had been trading with American Indians for centuries. That's why they don't want to talk about it. Why they don't talk about Hatshepsut. Again, dealing with Queen It. They don't talk about that. They don't talk about the fact that there are pyramids. There are pyramids. There's a whole city off the coast of Japan that has been found, underground cities with these pyramids. They don't talk about what was going on in Cambodia. They don't talk about Angkor Wat. They don't talk about China. They don't talk about these places because they destroyed them all. Because it's going to lead back to show you who were these people, who were these wizards of the waters. Why you don't read about any Viking records, but they talk about it in their folklore. And I say again, stop trying to get them not to put on blackface when it's a tribute to you, idiot. Oh, you're the mic.
Think about it. Negro Island is in the Pacific, and the name of it is Negro Island.
You mean not African island?
Nope. And these people have no trace, no lineage, no history, no stories ever coming from no Africa.
Nope. But you go over there, they have pineapples. And pineapples come from where? See, oh man, that's why I say they never talk agriculture or horticulture. Sorry, Gabrielle Union. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What are you looking for?
huh?
Why do we have so little written history of Viking society outside of raids and religion?
Yep.
Because the Vikings fought someone. They came over here and they fought people. The Vikings made their way all the way down into Meso and South America. They fought people. And this is what they try to get rid of, again, that you will find in Bonaparte. And I will say again, the Bonaparte, the paintings, they are they have been modernized because the so-called European explorer that went over there was trying to preserve the paintings with kerosene. And guess what he did shortly after that? He lit a cigarette. How dumb can you be? Why would he do that? Anybody know that kerosene is highly flammable? Why would you be inside of the temple and light a cigarette?
Why was he trying to clean it with kerosene though?
Because kerosene actually is a great cleaner. It's a great, cleaning agent. But why would you light a cigarette?
Right.
But there was so many people, so many elders and wise ones that were still in the area that knew about the paintings. And that's why I go back again. I was gonna say this before and I forgot. When you go down there, they will tell you that these renderings and statues and things that you see there and paintings, they will tell you these things have been whitewashed. They didn't look like that. When you go and you talk about the Guerrero, they're like, oh, they came from Africa. What proof? They tell you, no, they didn't come from Africa. They were already here, or they just came from the Carib, which the Carib were one and the same. Which is why when you have Garifino will tell you they're Carib, but yet they're living on the coastal lands of the mainland of Mesoamerica and South America. They all say they're Carib, but in the European mindset, they're like, well, the Caribbean are the islands. Why are they saying it's the culture? The culture. Again, why do you think the word that's been translated now to chief, cacique, is a Taino word? Come on, son. They're fooling you. That's why I go back again and I say again, look at the dance of the devil. It is a wedding ceremony. They are coming into town and they are marching. I say again, put it beside any HBCU and watch how they move. Watch how the ladies come in. Watch how the drum majors come in. Watch how they come in. Look at the dance of the devil. And then look again when he's dancing. The woman is dancing around because she's happy. She's a new bride, and the groom picks her up, and they're dancing together. And everybody else is still doing the chant, still doing the stomp. I yield the mic. That's how you defeat a people. Destroy the books, the written records, and you destroy the images and replace those images with what they want you to see.
Don't they do that to the so-called African American today?
Hey, that's what Byron Allen kept saying again when he gave the example and said he went to an exec, a white exec, and he was like, "Oh, well, the white exec was like, oh, well, the black, black entertainment. We have all these black entertainment. And he said, no, there's a difference. Is it black entertainment or is it black influence? Is it black owned? He said, how would you feel, me, being a black man, if from the day your daughter was born, I had control of everything that she saw of herself, thought of herself, and what she could possibly be? He said, would you like that? And the exec said, well, no. He said, that's the same thing that I'm saying. You can go around and talk about all these black entertainment shows, but are they actually black owned? Is it the black influence?
Most of the writers not even melanated for these shows.
Eddie Griffin told you that about Malcolm and Eddie. That's why he's like, man, they couldn't even relate. They couldn't even relate. He said they had all these white writers. He said there was none. None of us were in the room.
People telling you what urban life is, so you'll emulate it. You actually be what they wanted you to be. We don't live like that, what they show on TV. It's somebody who never lived in your area is giving the image of what they want you to be.
I caught David Corey's comment when he talked about the parents. You know what? In a lot of cases, though, Brother David Corey, the parents and grandparents are telling the children, they just aren't listening because they want to be cool. Because I know my grandparents, they taught us, my granddad, I can say my grandmothers, my great-granddad, and my great-grandmothers, they taught us. And we knew these things. And having the opportunity of after school, I'd be with my grandmother and my great aunt would come by. And then my other great aunt was next door. They would tell us these things.
Problem is when you speed time up. When I mean speeding time up, the way we live so fast now. But the thing is, you live faster, but you can't add more time. See, we spend so much time trying to live this high profile life, working 9 to 5, taking on bills to where it take that part of life away from you. See, that's what they meant by kill the Indian. Our way of life, our culture, how we did things, that's what they destroyed.
Yep. Because I challenge you, Brother David Corey, when you go around and see some young men just, hanging out at the barbershop and they come and sit in your chair and start talking to them about being an Indian, they're like, man, I ain't no Tonto. What you talking about, man? I ain't living in no teepee. Because that's the image that we've been fed. And why aren't you finding these teepees? Again, you don't find them in Southeast United States. You're not finding them in Mesoamerica. You're not finding these teepees. So who were the people living in the teepees? But the image that we have of an Indian, you think, hey, and all you doing is sitting crisscross applesauce all day, and me know how to talk to white man. And that's all we get. So it is when you have these images in your head of who these people are supposed to look like. And that's why I say again, when you look at Bonaparte, when they reconstructed it, they didn't destroy it all, but I wish I could show my screen to where you could actually see after he lit that cigarette what it looked like before. And then after he lit that cigarette, like I say again, it wasn't done accidentally because you're in a room full of kerosene and kerosene on the walls and you light a cigarette. But you come out to live to tell the story. Come on, son. You better think about it. You better think about it. At the same time, they finding buried Olmec heads with cannon indentions in them. When were cannons invented and who brought the cannons over? Again, that goes back to your libraries. Why is it that the original calendar, the sundial that they call the Mayan calendar, the original calendar has the nose and the lips chiseled off, which represents Quetzalcoatl. And now all of a sudden you look up Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan, they say he was a white man. When did that happen? Au contraire, mon frère.
So here's what happened. 1988, the Rainbow Coalition comes up with this idiotic idea to create a culture, African American. Their culture is then cultivated and dictated to us in the form of television and music. The biggest proponent of that was The Cosby Show.
And if you think about it, they even created classes to teach you African American culture. If that's where we come from, why we got to go to school to learn it? You can't learn it from nobody in your house, nobody in your lineage. You got to go to a university to learn about it. Really?
The whole thing was to teach us to want to take on the colonizer's mindset Education, right? That's what they always touted. Education. Go to college. We had the biggest influx of college students in the 1990s.
Yep.
And what does college teach you? How to become good employees, right?
Yep.
But it also taught you where you was from, didn't it?
Yep. Or where they want you to think you was from.
Why was African American Studies a mandatory class in the HBCU? I'll wait.
Because they had to teach you this
Wait,
new
what?
culture.
Hold on. That's a mandatory class? I didn't know that.
Yes, you have to take that class.
So they got to teach you that bobo. Program it to you.
So they're having you turn in your culture for another culture. So now they can create and produce a generation of people who are willing to go back to Africa and become employees, which is what we're seeing today, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why you got people so adamant about defending African culture.
I mean, you didn't get your biggest push of people voluntarily going over there until you had the 1990s television and movie propaganda. Before then, wasn't nobody trying to go over there.
And what do you start seeing in the 2000s? Entertainers, i.e., albino, aka white entertainers, adapting African children, right or wrong.
Yep. Yep. Think about it. We grew up knowing this is the funny part. Subconsciously, we knew that we were different people. Why else would we grow up in America calling them South African booty scratchers when we were younger? And I'm not saying that to be funny.
No, yeah.
It's showing that we always knew that we were two different people. They had to reprogram you to think that you were the same.
So right now, the reason why they are fighting so bitterly to keep Allen out of the industry is because they need to continue to control our narrative of how we view ourselves. Because if they lose that control, everything that they did was in vain.
Yep.
That's why this case is so important. We learn everything through entertainment. We learn everything through media. We learn everything through about our culture through what we see and what we hear. We start controlling our images and they gonna have a problem. Go ahead, Bones.
And that's the main part, if you think about it, that we were locked out of. The ownership and controlling of our narrative. Now you got a pro-black movement, but nobody who financing the movement identifies with pro-black.
Nature's voice said the whole push to Ghana is starting to get pushed heavy now. Yeah, but the problem is that they're Ghana's banks, and this is how the government does it. Ghana's banks have failed. They had over 200 banks pull out. Ghana is bankrupt.
Now, if they get them don't want to be Ghanaians to go over there.
So what's happening is they're already creating a scenario to where Ghana's bankrupt, and guess who gets to go bail out Ghana? The French and the United States.
And within 20 years, there will be a civil war over there. Mark it. Because you're going to have African Americans that want to come over there and try to make Africans African American, and you're going to have a problem. Why? because now you're starting to influence my culture. Don't come over here with your African American ways, thinking that you're going to influence my culture. That's how wars start.
No different than sending the Jamaicans to South America to be managers over the Mayans and the Mexicans.
Yep. So now you're going to have a problem. Because what did you say when you talked about that commercial? We didn't come to assimilate. We
came
to
to take over.
And think about it. When they come, who do they force to assimilate? Not their people, you.
So who do you think they're going to use to make the Africans assimilate? You. Because they can only do with people that look like who? You. And the reason why the Africans don't want you coming over there is because they know that you ain't from them, and they already know the history. They already know what happened to us. They already know what the Black Irish and the Black Dutch did to us. They don't want that. They don't want us doing that to them.
I'm gonna channel my inner Sister Gabrielle Union. I got a question. Has anyone ever visited the Caribbean islands, the West Indies?
No.
Yep.
Which islands you talking about?
Just anyone.
Yeah,
anyone.
I've been on a cruise ship, and I've actually stayed at a resort in Dominican Republic. So I don't know if that helps or if that.
Yes, that's perfect. Did you
Okay.
have to get a series of vaccinations?
No, not no. Mm-mm.
Wait a minute. But when you go to Africa, in order for you to go to Africa,
Gonna light you up.
why is that?
Yeah, okay, so I've been wondering that. I've talked to a lot of people who go to other countries, and there's certain places they're like, okay, if you're going there, you have to get it's a list of vaccines that you have to get. You cannot,
But
they
you're
will not let you
foreign.
go. Go ahead.
You are foreign to that landmass. Everything about you is foreign. And if you don't get it, everything on that landmass will kill you.
Mm-hmm.
How can you come from there? It's not a part of your DNA makeup.
I'm allergic to my own boat. Okay, all right, just checking for the African Americans out there.
That's a great question. I mean, because I've been to some of every Caribbean island. I mean, like for real. Like, you name an island, I probably done been there.
Africa.
Think about it, you can go to Mexico.
I said Caribbean island.
You can go to Mexico and you don't need a shot.
Nope.
You can't drink the
Been
water,
there
but
too.
you don't need a shot.
Been there too.
And the only reason you can't drink the water because you grew up drinking this poison, acidic, added as they please water.
But if you drink the water from the water fountains of the Yucatan, you'll be just fine. Go to the waterfalls. The water is pure.
Pure vida. That's what.
I mean, I know that was off subject, but I just, just wondering, then talking about smallpox, Tupac, and all the rest of that. I was just trying to figure it out. I just wanted to know. Because, yeah, just thought even though I knew the answer, but I just wanted to throw that out.
But that's a great point. I mean, I remember when every time we would have to go overseas, we'd have to get a whole bunch of shots when I was in the military.
If you don't get them, they're not letting you in the country. And then you definitely ain't coming back.
That's a good point.
That would explain why some Pan-Africanists are now talking about vaccinations. Maybe the gig is up over here, and they're gonna try to run the same scam over in Ghana. I yield the mic.
Seem like they setting up for it. these so-called pro-black celebrities and talk show hosts running over there towards the end of the year now. Won't trigger me.
But you know, there's going to be a forced migration over there anyway. All those African Americans based off of their genealogy. I mean, based off of the census. It's going to be bad. It's going to be horrible. Yeah.
You know, but in every disaster, I take it as a teachable moment. So when all these things, as they are starting to come to fruition, it's going to get more and more people to wake up and realize you are always from this land. And regardless of how emotional someone becomes or how adamant they are about telling you something, but you find out the core of it is a lie, does it turn it into the truth just because they're passionate about it? No. I yield the mic.
Wow. I definitely appreciate everybody on the panel today for coming through and sharing. Appreciate everybody in the chat on this for Friday for sticking it out with us. I'm sure y'all were excited. We're happy. At least I know David Corey was that we lasted until 11:26. But we gotta let y'all get on with y'all day and become productive citizens, productive American Indians, and go out and help y'all community. Cause sitting here listening to us ain't helping y'all. Not like that anyway. So, Gabby, is there anything that you want to say to the good people before we let them go? Gabby?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah. I got something to share. Shout out to No Sellout. Keep in perspective. When I hear somebody sigh that life is hard, I am always tempted to ask, compared to what? So peace to the panel, peace to the chat, peace to the silent majority. Due to vision, I definitely look forward to the next reading and the next study. I'm gonna ask for some homework so I can get some extra credit. But yeah, peace, love, blessings, and prosperity to everyone. Stay read up.
No Sellout. What you got for the good people before we head on out? You might be busy right now. He did say he had some stuff he had to take care of. So with that, I'm gonna go to James Flames, aka Doodle Vision, aka Choctaw Jimmy. Hit him up. James,
Yeah,
let him know what you got for him.
it's just another hot one. Oh man, appreciate everyone in the chat, the best chat in the cosmos. Brother David Corey, man, we got to get together soon. We're going to go to these barbershops and talk to these young men. And I'm just going to, I'll let you talk. I'm just going to record it. Then you'll see, like I said, it's because of the power of influence of videos. There was an old song, rock and roll song. Well, it wasn't really a rock and roll song. It was more like a pop song, British invasion song of the 80s. And it says, "Video killed the radio star." Look up that song. Then another one, again, getting back to that British invasion, there was a song and it was entitled Africa by Toto. Bless the rains down in Africa. Look up that Toto, Toto. Look up that song. And then turn the volume down and just watch the video. And let me know what happens to the library in that video. Very interesting. Gets very deep. To those on the panel, Sister Gabrielle Union, I think she's over there because she got all those windows open again. And my grandmother said, you're going to make your house drafty. You're getting a draft in the house. Because I've run out of no-pow Bitcoins that I got sheets for your linens and things. But now we got to start using comforters and blankets to cover all those windows you got. So I'm going to start boarding them up, getting ready for the hurricane. But I appreciate you. But no, Sally, I know you're over there with one of your clients that deal with top men. And probably one of your clients is the hater that sat there and listened to the whole 2 hours of the live stream only to give it a thumbs down. But it still shows up on the viewership, you idiot. You know who you are, man. I hate you guys. Oh, man. Keep with your empty threats if you want to, man. I'll lay it out for you for a little bit. I guess you want me to keep coming back at you. Oh, man. To Brother Thomas, again, no one understands the intricacies of hosting a show, especially a 2-hour plus show, 5 days a week. So I definitely commend you for that. Brother Bones, I appreciate you and with the community spotlights and hitting and get the information in and things that are going on behind the scenes collectively. Brother, keep doing what you're doing. If anybody says that that Section 3 does not work, then all I do is just point to you as an example. It works, and it's not something that takes years to do. Again, A2 is still a baby, and a lot of things are being done. So definitely appreciate what you're doing. Brother Copper Indio, I know you back there somewhere, you're listening. I know you're working hard behind the scenes and making sure those no hanging chads and dimple chads when it comes up to dealing with the election. Get that census out there. To the carpenter's son, Brother Kerry, keep pushing on. Lady Free, I know you back there listening. I know it. She'll be back soon. No worries. And to those that use materials but don't give A2 credit, I see you too. A couple of videos came up on my live stream. And we're discussing some things that we had discussed. And that's what makes it so funny, is that they turn around and they say they don't listen, but then they have to listen, because when you match those that are actually in the chat on the YouTube interacting with one another, it's only a small fraction of those that actually watch the videos. So we know you're watching. So just go ahead and keep doing what you're doing. But next time, give A2 some credit, or at least, I know it's hard to say, shout out to Gab and them in the Grand Rising Show. But if you can just, type it in the description box or something, just give credit to where credit is due. That's all. And I know this is a freeze day, Frida Day, Friday, the actual real Friday, and everybody's, kind of getting down and mellowing out and wrapping up 2019 about to go into 2020, but just keep watching those libraries and how they all burn, and why were they burning them, and why people like Benjamin Franklin were complaining about the swarthy people, that everywhere they went they keep finding these swarthy people. And notice the connection between the Pacific Islanders pardon me, and their culture, their traditions, and what they do and their customs, and that they're not African. And then notice the foods, the crops that ended up in these Pacific Islands. Where do they originate from? Again, as I say again, all these different crops that ended up in Europe prior to 1492. Again, maize. Talk about the mandi and the maize, and that they came from the red maize. And you look at, again, all of the tobacco that ended up over there, the pine cone. I can keep going on and on. The sweet potato. Man, I can really just keep going on and on. That you will find in the has origins in the Americas. So someone's going to have to explain to me how outsiders came in, knew that this particular crop was food and that it wasn't poison, and then to ship it back. But then these other places have been saying before the libraries got burned, it was written and it's chiseled in the stone. That's one thing I can agree with Earth, Wind, and Fire. It's in the stone. Why symbolisms of people that from the Americas, bearded ones from the Americas, that they always equate to coming by ships and dealing with the waters? How is that possible? When everyone else was talking about this land, and all of a sudden the land just became empty. But yet you still have those that have the ancient writings. You still have those that have the oral tradition. You still have those that practice the same culture and customs that they've been practicing for thousands of years. So who's lying? Those groups that are trying to get you to go to Africa, or your granny? I'm going the way of the granny, because my granny she wouldn't lie to me on purpose. So why are your grannies talking about where you're from? And nobody, they can tell you that drums are African. They can tell you these rhythms are African. They can tell you these dances are African. But they can't tell you where. When you start looking up these dances, you start looking up these traditions, you start looking up these instruments, and you'll find out, wait a minute, these instruments didn't get over there into Africa until the 1800s. Y'all better think about it. That's all I'm gonna say. I say and I say and I say again. Close your eyes. Listen to what the people are saying. Don't get caught up in the fact that they look like you. What is their culture? Sister Gabrielle Union, close all those windows, close the blinds, put those books up. Let's get to work. And with that, I yield this cotton picking mic. Good day, everybody.
Hot mic, hot mic, hot mic. Definitely appreciate you, James. As always. As busy as a man as you are, we definitely appreciate the time that you spend with us and the time that you spend educating us based off of what your elders and your wise men have shown and shared with you. So thank you for all that you do and everything that you do with HUD, Section 3, USDA, and everything that you're doing in your town in Texas. So thank you. And all other towns that you've actually helped. So I want to say shout out and peace to the new subscribers on the website, the new subscribers on YouTube for Titans Assembly, the Cab Grand Rising Show. I want to say thank you and shout out to the silent majority. We definitely appreciate what you do and what you bring. And just because we can't see you, don't mean you're not there. And I want to send a shout out to the livest, bestest, and smartest chat on earth. Appreciate y'all doing what y'all do, being who y'all are. And most definitely, last but not least, I want to say peace to the panel and to Tigers Assembly, everybody that sits on the board and works with us, and all those that are partnering with us, and those that are taking information and doing something in your community. At the end of the day, this is what we're here for, to help you so you can help your community, so that you have a choice and there's not a force for you to go to Ghana or anywhere else that the United States wants to send you, because you have chosen to abandon your culture and take on either someone else's culture or take on a culture that has been created for you to take on. Everything we do is to help people find out who they are. And that's for you to do. It's not for us to tell you who you are. So with that, I relinquish the mic and give it over and turn over to Bones H. McCoy so he can do what he do. And we'll probably be reaching out to y'all this weekend, sending information. I know Bones will. I know Doodle Vision will, probably. So, yeah, man, with that, I relinquish the mic. So, Bones, go ahead. You got it, bro.
All right. Thanks, TMH. I'd like to thank Gabby.
Hey, can I go?
Out. Doodoo Vision, Copper Indio, LJ Free, Carrie Bay, for the work they do at the Tontonist Assembly. Like to thank the active chat that have been here every rising to make the show what it is. Also want to thank the ones that's just listening and applying the information. We're going to leave with this today. Doing this hunt and finding ourselves, doing our genealogy, it's not just to find our ancestors, to hold them up and brag and show them off. No, it's to find that part that was taken away from us. It's to find them parts that's kept away from us, meaning our culture, our way of life. And once we find it, it's to reactivate it so we can start back living our culture, practicing our culture. So let's do not or ever forget what this is about and what this is for. So everyone continue to have a very, very blissful day. Continue to do your genealogy. Take the time out to know your community, know your local politicians, know your neighbors. And until we link up again, everyone, we love you and peace.
Go ahead, no sellout. You want to go?
No, I'm good now. Y'all already said everything I was gonna say, so I'm just gonna stay on mute. All right, peace, y'all.
Did he just get sentimental out? He just interrupted my Bones. You know what?
I ain't got no salmonella. What you talking about? Nah, peace, y'all.
Look, do you know every time after Doodoo Vision says slow it down, and I be quiet because he says profound things. All I want to do is interject and say slow it down. He just dished you. It's a saying.
Oh, the mic's still hot.
Mm-hmm. They're hot.
Water, man, it's trash.
For all those who didn't know.
We addressed all the haters today. Okay, you're gonna recognize. I'm from Dominica. Where is that from? I don't know where that's from. Dominique. Okay, peace, y'all.
Yeah, y'all finished. Y'all done?
Nope. I'm a Moor, bro. You a foreigner, not me. You the foreigner. Y'all some fake Indians. Ask me if I'm finished. I'm a Moor. This is Moorland. My grandmama named Lamar.
Your grandmama's name Lamar?
Yeah, you a fake Indian, like that Chinamus one. Y'all some fake Indian. Chinamus one. Y'all, all of y'all, fake Indian.
Autobots, Decepticons.
So they Automobots. Automoboticons.
That's that new type of Indian. Ain't that like Jesus' name or something? You can't say it. It's too many letters. Tetrahedron or something? I don't know.
You said tetrahedron.
I don't know how to spell it.
Sound like something you catch.
Oh, you talking about smallpox again? Okay. When we gonna peace y'all? Peace y'all.
So I got a new term for these people that are trying to move sovereign. They're what you call declaricons. They cons at declaring. So
At the same time?
at the same time. Declaricons. CONKHAN. It's still a con. So know that to be true. And on that note, we out.
Wait, why'd you spell it KHOLN?
KHAN.
Why'd you spell it like that?
Because some people who goes by the name of a Khan, they say they're supposed to mean king. But phonetically, and when you hear it, it's still Khan.
That was a play on words. Con, declare. Okay, I get it. Slow it down. He just dished you.
Guado.
Warning, warning, warning. Hard hats, pickaxe, shovels, boots required.